Chapter 181, Ascended Draw. Rina and Fiora had been nervously standing guard in front of his room, their expressions filled with worry and exhaustion from their continuous vigilance. Upon seeing Orion standing there, awake and seemingly fine, their eyes widened instantly in a mixture of astonishment and overwhelming relief. "Master!" Fiora gasped softly, visibly startled yet joyously relieved, her gentle eyes sparkling with happiness. "Why, you're finally awake." Rina immediately stepped forward as well, her voice softly pleading yet firm, "Master, please don't move around too much yet. Lady Selene explicitly instructed us to inform her the moment you woke up. She's been extremely worried." Orion smiled warmly at their obvious concern, gently ruffling both girls' hair affectionately. "Sorry to make you both worry so much. Thank you for guarding me so diligently. I'll visit Grandma Selene and Grandpa Eldrick first to reassure them. You can both relax now." The two girls exchanged hesitant glances, clearly torn between their relief and the seriousness of Selene's instructions. But seeing Orion's calm, gentle smile, Fiora softly nodded, cheeks slightly flushed. "All right, Master. But please be careful." Orion chuckled lightly, his heart warmed by their earnest care. "I promise. After visiting Grandma and Grandpa, I'll take proper rest." With a nod to the two maids, Orion calmly walked toward Eldrick and Selene's private room. As he reached the ornate wooden doors carved with elegant patterns, he knocked gently before stepping inside after hearing a soft, familiar voice reply. Selene was sitting quietly by the window, her gaze thoughtful, while Eldrick paced restlessly. Both instantly turned upon Orion's entry, their expressions quickly shifting from deep concern to relief. "Orion, my dear child." Selene immediately moved forward, gently clasping his hands and inspecting him carefully, her eyes filled with tender warmth yet faint lingering worry. "How are you feeling now? Any pain or discomfort?" Eldrick approached slowly as well, eyes carefully assessing Orion's condition even as his expression relaxed significantly. "You gave us quite a scare, brat. Are you really all right now?" Orion smiled warmly, squeezing Selene's hands reassuringly before nodding confidently. "I'm truly fine, Grandma, Grandpa. Just a bit tired from the breakthroughs, but nothing concerning. My body just needs a few days to adapt completely." Selene sighed softly, visibly relaxing as she smiled gently. "Thank heavens. We were both so worried after Instructor Viren brought you back unconscious." Eldrick nearly stormed the entire academy by himself. Eldrick coughed slightly, clearly embarrassed yet unrepentant. "Humph. That useless instructor, allowing my precious grandson to become injured like that." Orion chuckled lightly, shaking his head fondly. "Instructor Viren wasn't at fault, Grandpa. It was simply me pushing myself to my limits. Besides, it's paid off greatly, I've grown stronger than ever." Eldrick raised an eyebrow curiously, interest and pride evident in his eyes. "Indeed, Viren said you underwent consecutive breakthroughs. In both physique and mana. Your growth rate is truly monstrous." Selene gently squeezed Orion's hand, voice softly reassuring. "Remember to rest properly, dear. Such sudden leaps put considerable strain on your body. Allow yourself proper recovery time." Orion nodded seriously. "I promise I will, Grandma. No strenuous training until I've fully adapted." Satisfied, Eldrick nodded approvingly, his expression easing further into warmth and pride. "Good. Take all the time you need. We'll handle anything else that comes up. Also, don't go outside without Edgar for now, those old foxes from noble houses have been restless after my little stunt." Orion chuckled softly. "I heard you made quite the commotion, Grandpa. Did you really need to frighten the entire capital?" Eldrick snorted lightly, eyes flashing with unapologetic amusement. "Bah. They all needed a good reminder about who exactly they're dealing with. Anyway, enough of that. Go rest and don't worry about anything." After chatting warmly with his grandparents for a few more moments, Orion excused himself, gently reassuring them once more before heading toward Seraph's room. Selene turned to look at Eldrick. "How will the others know that it was you who put that pressure?" Most nobles still think that the brat Reynold took pity on us out of his friendship with our. Eldrick shook his head. I'm just worried something might happen to him, that's why I asked him to take Edgar with him. The nobles were just an excuse. The two of them continued to chat as they felt relief wash over them after Orion woke up so quickly. As he approached her door, Orion knocked softly before stepping inside. Seraph sat quietly by the window as always, her emerald eyes slowly turning to him with quiet surprise and subtle relief. Orion smiled gently, pulling over a nearby chair and sitting comfortably across from her. Sorry for being absent these last couple of days, Seraph. Something unexpected happened at the academy. Seraph tilted her head very slightly, quietly attentive, a faint glimmer of concern appearing briefly in her eyes. With great effort, she opened her mouth and said with difficulty, you okay? Orion's eyes flashed with surprise hearing her broken voice. He quickly gestured her to stop. I'm fine, you don't need to push yourself. If you are having difficulty then just some more time. You are already getting better. Seraph paused, feeling relieved that he was alright as she silently sat there and gazed at Orion peacefully. Orion nodded and continued. Everything is fine now. I just need to rest a few days to fully recover. He sighed lightly, relaxing into the chair. You should have seen Grandpa's reaction though. Apparently, he scared the whole capital. I'm just relieved nothing serious happened. A faint smile touched Seraph's lips at his exaggerated sigh, her shoulders relaxing visibly, clearly reassured by his presence and relaxed demeanor. Orion continued gently, how have you been these last few days? Hopefully Fiora and Rina have been looking after you properly. Seraph gave a small, gentle nod, her eyes softening subtly. Though she remained quiet, Orion sensed clearly that she appreciated his presence and quiet conversation more deeply than words could express. He smiled warmly, leaning back comfortably as he continued chatting softly, sharing small stories from the past few days and his experiences in the Origin Mana Pool. Seraph quietly listened, her expression subtly brighter, clearly comforted and reassured by Orion's gentle, steady voice and calming presence. For a long while, they sat comfortably together, chatting with a light-hearted mood. Orion inwardly felt happy for this peaceful, restorative moment after his intense breakthroughs. After a long time, he stood up and bid her farewell, returning to his room to rest before jumping on the bed. That was quite relaxing, he said with a content sigh and eyes closed. Master, I forgot something. He opened his eyes and saw her showing him system notifications. Ding. Congratulations for reaching Tier 2 in Mana/Physique Cultivation. 1 Ascended Gacha Draw acquired. Ding. Congratulations for reaching Tier 3 in Mana/Physique Cultivation. 1 Ascended Gacha Draw acquired. He curiously looked at the notifications. What is this Ascended Gacha Draw? Search *the Nafire.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Echo left this mechanism behind to reward you for your progress. I think this was his way of paying back for limiting the system. Orion stared curiously at the notifications, intrigued by the unfamiliar term. After a brief hesitation, he shrugged lightly, deciding to test it immediately. Alright, Lumi. Let's see what this Ascended Gacha Draw can offer. With a small, playful smile, Orion mentally confirmed his choice. Alright. We going gambling. For all, / The Gacha BGM began inside his mind as Lumi created hype for the draw. In the next instant, the result of the gacha showed in front of him. Orion's eyes widened drastically, his breathing quickening sharply, and his heart pounding violently in his chest. His relaxed demeanor shattered completely, replaced by absolute shock and disbelief as he read the text on the display floating clearly before him. No way, Orion murmured in disbelief, heart racing wildly as he stared at the result that he thought to be impossible hovering before his eyes. Magi asked for a cliffhanger, blame him. Oh, and make Guen VM some of you might guess it. Chapter 182, Ascended Gacha Draw. Orion's heart hammered wildly in his chest, eyes fixed intensely upon the floating notification before him. The delicate golden letters of the ascended Gacha draw shone with a vibrant and majestic brilliance, quietly revealing a reward he had never expected to see again. Congratulations, you have acquired legendary grade physique reconstruction liquid. It was the same vivid, scarlet elixir that had appeared in the most crucial moment of his past, the catalyst that enabled his impossible rebirth, the sacred liquid responsible for merging his three disparate legacies, the mighty thunder true dragon lineage, the blazing fire true dragon lineage, and the profound human emperor lineage. The treasure itself, despite its grandeur, wasn't what shocked Orion most profoundly. Even before, he had gotten treasures of even higher rarity, the primordial ranked mark of fate, supreme level abilities, and various awe-inspiring artifacts. No, his astonishment stemmed from the deeply profound implications behind acquiring this particular item again. Holy fuck! This changes everything, Orion murmured quietly, his breath coming short as the full weight of what he held dawned upon him. His mind raced furiously, envisioning countless possibilities, each more spectacular than the last. Lumi's cheerful floating screen flickered beside him, immediately sensing his turbulent thoughts. Master, what happened? Sigma, degree, you look like you've seen a ghost. Orion swallowed heavily, his voice trembling slightly with excitement and disbelief as he finally responded, Lumi, you don't understand, the treasure I just drew, this legendary grade physique reconstruction liquid, it was what allowed me to merge my legacies during reincarnation. Without it, I would have died during the clash between the thunder and fire inheritances. Oh. That's the one you mentioned before, Master, the legendary grade treasure that saved your life. But wait, isn't that a good thing? You already have your legacies fused perfectly. Orion shook his head slowly, excitement still burning fiercely in his gaze as he sat up fully on the bed, thoughts churning rapidly. That's just it, Lumi, the implications behind obtaining this again are enormous. I previously thought my fusion of thunder, fire, and human lineages was a unique, once-in-a-lifetime miracle. But if I can acquire this liquid again through the system, doesn't it mean I could fuse even more bloodlines in the future? He paused, allowing the stunning realization to sink in fully. Think about it, there are countless other powerful bloodlines in existence. Dragons of other elements, powerful beasts like phoenixes, titans, leviathans, or even rarer lineages. If I manage to obtain even one of those, combined with another physique reconstruction liquid. His voice trailed off, his eyes blazing with raw, unfathomable ambition. Lumi's floating screen immediately exploded into a series of excited emoticons, stars sparkling enthusiastically. Master, you're a genius. With this method, you could continuously enhance your physique and bloodline, potentially creating an unprecedented existence that surpasses all known limits. Orion nodded gravely, fully grasping the enormity of this potential path. Yet even amidst the excitement, caution tempered his enthusiasm. His gaze became thoughtful and calmer. It's an alluring possibility, but the risks are equally enormous. You remember clearly how painful and dangerous the fusion process was, it nearly destroyed me last time. Integrating new, powerful bloodlines won't be simple. You're right, Master. The clash between your thunder and fire inheritances almost killed you back then. Without enough preparation and ample energy sources, a repeat fusion could very well kill you, especially with multiple legacies. Orion's expression became firmer with determination, he said with a resolute voice, exactly. And I also need to first verify the success of this method. Which means future fusion must be approached with extreme caution, rigorous preparation, and thorough understanding of the bloodlines involved. However, the rewards will undoubtedly be incredible. He rose to his feet and walked to the nearby window, gazing thoughtfully into the serene garden outside, bathed gently by moonlight. His mind spun rapidly, contemplating potential preparations and future implications. Not only that, Lumi, but this discovery also vastly increases the value of the ascended Gacha draws. If something this powerful and specifically useful to me appeared once, it can happen again. Echo definitely knew my potential and prepared suitable rewards. This also answers why Echo restricted the system. he foresaw I would eventually find methods to surpass conventional limits. Lumi flickered thoughtfully beside him. Indeed, Master. Echo certainly had deep plans. This treasure, specifically tailored to you, seems too coincidental otherwise. It seems Echo truly anticipated your path long ago, preparing these ascended draws to facilitate your growth. Orion smiled faintly, wondering what was the grand plan of Echo that he was trying so hard to make him stronger. He said the Limitless system was limited only by the bearer's imagination and willpower. Perhaps this was exactly what he meant, a potential path that extends beyond normal boundaries. A path built through ingenuity, perseverance, and calculated risks. He clenched his fists gently, determination flaring brightly within his gaze. But for now, we must plan cautiously. This physique reconstruction liquid will remain our secret trump card for when the right opportunity arises. Until then, I must steadily consolidate my current breakthroughs and carefully search for appropriate bloodlines. I can't just depend on Gacha for it, there must be bloodline legacies and runes or inheritance grounds in this world. Lumi's cheerful text bobbed energetically in enthusiastic agreement. Absolutely, Master. We will keep this secret carefully guarded and use it when we have thoroughly prepared. Until then, our primary focus should remain your current consolidation, cultivation, and training. But just knowing we have such an incredible path open is hugely reassuring. Orion nodded his head in agreement, even he didn't expect such a path to open in front of him. Yet he understood clearly the enormous challenges awaiting along such a path. Each step would demand rigorous preparation, patience, and resilience. With his new plans formed and decided on, Orion finally allowed his turbulent excitement to settle down. The initial shock of the incredible draw calmed down, leaving behind only determination to see his path to the end. Lumi, thank you, Orion inwardly whispered gently, voice calm and steady. Having you at my side truly makes this daunting path feel achievable. Lumi's response came immediately, brimming with genuine warmth and enthusiasm. Of course, Master. We're in this together every step of the way. Now, you must rest properly. Your body still requires ample recovery time. Orion chuckled softly, nodding in sincere agreement. You're right, Lumi. There's plenty of time ahead for careful plans. For now, it's about time I head to rest. But what about the second draw? Orion inwardly shook his head. This is enough excitement for a day. My heart might explode with happiness if I got something crazy again. I will draw it tomorrow morning. With a faint, contented sigh, Orion settled back into his comfortable bed, eyes closing gently once more. His mind drifted steadily toward peaceful sleep. That night, he couldn't even sleep in peace due to all the excitement. Sarthanafire.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A couple days ago, as the club members dispersed beneath the gentle cascade of cherry blossoms, Elias walked briskly toward the dormitory buildings at Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The sunlight cast a serene golden hue upon the carefully maintained pathways, bathing the gardens and the pathway with warmth. Yet despite the calming surroundings, Elias's mind was a turbulent storm of thoughts. What do you think of this direction? Any thoughts? Chapter 183, Sending Waves. He soon reached the dormitory assigned exclusively to him, a privilege granted due to his exceptional performance in the entrance tests. The door opened softly, revealing a neat, modest room with polished wooden furnishings, neatly arranged shelves stacked with textbooks, and a cozy study table set near the large, sunlit window. Closing the door behind him, Elias exhaled deeply, sinking into the comfortable wooden chair. He ran his fingers slowly through his hair, his gaze lingering thoughtfully on the sky beyond the window. After a moment, a quiet chuckle escaped him, tinged with an edge of self-mockery. Look at me, worrying about pointless things again. Orion got his noble house to back him, nothing would happen to him, he muttered softly to himself. Yet his frustration lingered clearly within his thoughtful expression, stubbornly refusing to fade. Elias leaned back in his chair, his eyes growing distant as he reflected on the meeting beneath the cherry blossom tree just moments ago. The conversation had naturally started with Orion, the indisputable prodigy whose actions had consistently awed and amazed everyone around him. Arya, Emilia, Sylvia, even Kale and Fiora, everyone had spoken of Orion in tones of sincere admiration, respect, and worry due to his sheer potential and battle strength. Even he himself felt the same, yet there was another feeling stirring quietly within him, something he couldn't openly voice among his companions, whom he didn't trust just yet. "I wanna compete with Orion," Elias murmured softly to himself, shaking his head lightly. Would they have laughed at me if I had shared this with them? A commoner trying to compete with the top prodigy of Thunder Peak Royal Academy? Especially since I haven't even formed my affinity yet. They would have laughed it off most likely. Everyone already thinks Orion is invincible at his level, a peerless talent who can't possibly be rivaled by anyone. His fists tightened briefly, a fierce resolve burning brightly in his gaze. Yet precisely because Orion is so powerful, precisely because he excels so effortlessly, I have to compete. If I accept his strength blindly, then how will I ever surpass my own limits? What's the point of being a genius if I never push myself to surpass others? His heart raced slightly, thoughts swirling furiously in his mind as he voiced these deeply held ambitions that he didn't want to share with others simply due to his own misconception. Elias knew clearly how invaluable Orion was as a friend and ally, but his pride as a genius cultivator demanded that he measure himself against the strongest. He needed, to see exactly how far he could push his advanced gravity element, especially against a prodigy like Orion. Taking another deep, calming breath, Elias's expression gradually steadied into solemn determination. He reached slowly into his spatial storage, carefully retrieving a meticulously bound set of runic inscriptions, the culmination of countless hours of tireless study and intense practice. "It's finally time," Elias whispered softly to himself, carefully opening the book and tracing his fingers softly across the delicate symbols inscribed within. Over the past several days, he had painstakingly mastered each of the necessary primary runes required for affinity rune formation. Now, he stood confidently prepared to solidify his gravity affinity rune. As Elias closed his eyes and focused deeply, each rune began to appear vividly within his sea of consciousness. 7 primary runes shimmered softly, one after another, each resonating profoundly with his innate understanding of gravity's profound mysteries, his origin glyph. As he carefully intertwined them, constructing his affinity rune step by step, Elias couldn't help but smile faintly to himself. Even Orion, he thought quietly, allowing a moment of mild pride, must have used 7 primary runes at most for his first affinity rune. With this, I won't lag behind. Yet even as he reassured himself, a faint, nagging doubt stirred quietly within his heart, a suspicion that Orion might have done even more. Elias swiftly brushed that thought aside, pouring all his concentration back into the intricate, delicate task at hand. Meanwhile, in different corners of the academy grounds, other nobles of Orion's club, Sylvia, Fiora, and Kale, were quickly making their way back toward their respective noble estates located within the second ring of the royal capital. Sylvia's footsteps echoed sharply across polished marble floors as she entered the grand hall of the Stormbolt estate, its grand chandeliers glittering magnificently above. Awaiting her was Duke Gregory Stormbolt, her father, a man whose calm, noble bearing belied the sharp intelligence behind his thoughtful gaze. "Sylvia," he greeted warmly yet seriously, "what have you learned about this Orion hellstorm that everyone speaks so fervently of?" Sylvia bowed gracefully before lifting her head, her crimson eyes shining thoughtfully. "Father, Orion's talent indeed defies expectations. He's rapidly growing and has already gathered extraordinary talents under his banner. Even Lady Arya herself joined him, and he easily defeated the trash Aaron in public combat without even forming his affinity rune or training in the warrior path. His potential may even surpass the rumors spreading through noble circles." Duke Gregory stroked his chin slowly, carefully weighing her words. Then continued to stay close. "He could prove to be a worthy ally to our house's future." Similarly, Fiora Norwin stood respectfully before Marquis Elric Norwin, her father's keen eyes scrutinizing her closely. The lavish Norwin mansion exuded a subtle elegance, filled with tasteful yet understated decor reflecting their house's sophisticated reputation. Fiora, this Orion Hellstorm, what is your honest evaluation of him? Elric's voice remained steady yet subtly commanding. Fiora nodded respectfully, answering clearly, he is formidable, father. Beyond simple talent, he possesses a natural charisma and deep strategic insight. Our family would benefit significantly from maintaining a positive relationship with him. Elric nodded slowly, deeply considering her words. Continue observing him closely, Fiora. We must tread carefully but decisively. Peaceful times are over. We need to start making bets on future powerhouses. At the estate of Marquis Duskfield, a similar conversation unfolded quietly. Cale stood composed before Marquis Leon Duskfield, whose thoughtful gaze never wavered from his son's composed expression. Father, Orion has already disrupted established norms at the academy by forming his club, Cale reported carefully yet firmly. His strength and influence are steadily growing daily. Many noble houses are already trying to form connections or alliances with him, but that demon Edgar is keeping them away. We would do well not to lag behind. cthnovelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Leon Duskfield thoughtfully rubbed his chin, his expression calm. Then, as we had discussed, remain close to him. There are others to handle our house's club at the academy, but forming connections with such a monster is much more important. Ensure that House Duskfield maintains a favorable relationship with him, especially if his rise continues at this astonishing pace. These quiet yet crucial conversations unfolded simultaneously across Thunderpeak's noble circles. Each noble house, deeply intrigued by Orion's remarkable performance and rapid ascent, subtly positioned themselves to best benefit from his seemingly boundless potential. For Sylvia, Fiora, and Cale, their swift departures from the club's meeting under the cherry blossoms had been no mere coincidence. Each understood clearly their respective houses' urgent desire to closely monitor and assess Orion's potential, both as a friend and as a future ally. None of them wanted their competitor to gain the upper hand at this crucial moment. Yet none of them knew that both the king and the dean of the academy were already involved with Orion. Chapter 184, Distress Nyss. At another part of the royal capital, within the beautiful and subtly imposing Blackwell estate, Nyss sat quietly in her elegantly decorated room. Gentle moonlight streamed softly through the intricate lace curtains, bathing the room in tranquil silver hues. Yet Nyss herself, seated at her desk by the window, seemed disconnected from her serene surroundings. Her normally composed obsidian eyes flickered restlessly, reflecting deep internal turmoil. She gazed absently toward the star-strewn night sky, yet her thoughts remained fixed on a single troubling event, Orion's sudden collapse at the academy. Her heart clenched uncomfortably as she recalled Elias's solemn report earlier. The news had deeply shaken her, awakening old fears she'd long tried to suppress. Is it happening again? Nyss whispered softly, her voice trembling faintly with dread. Her delicate fingers clenched into tight fists atop her lap, knuckles whitening subtly. Is my curse really affecting those around me again? Just then, a gentle knock echoed quietly against her chamber's ornate wooden door, breaking Nyss from her troubled reverie. Quickly sitting up and smoothing out her soft, silken robes, she called out in her calm, composed voice, despite the lingering anxiety she felt. Come in. The door opened softly, and the gentle figure of Asara Blackwell, the Duchess herself, stepped gracefully into the room. Her dignified bearing and refined elegance contrasted starkly with the deep, maternal warmth that filled her eyes upon seeing Nyss. Asara smiled warmly, her gaze gentle yet deeply perceptive as she carefully approached her niece. Nyss, my dear, are you all right? You've seemed troubled since returning from the academy today. Nyss hesitated momentarily, struggling briefly with the intense emotion swirling within her. Yet seeing the genuine concern in Asara's gaze, Nyss felt her resistance slowly crumble, replaced by an instinctive trust and vulnerability. I'm worried about Orion, Nyss admitted quietly, her voice soft yet carrying a faint tremor of distress. Today, Elias saw Instructor Viren carrying Orion unconscious from the academy. They say he overexerted himself at the Origin Mana Pool, but I fear it may be my fault. Isara's expression instantly softened further, compassion and understanding filling her gaze as she gently took a seat beside Nyss. She reached out, tenderly grasping Nyss's hands, her warm touch offering immediate comfort. Why would you think something like that, my dear? Nyss lowered her gaze, her voice barely audible, heavy with quiet pain. Because of what happened to my big sister. It was my curse back then, wasn't it? Everyone close to me always ends up suffering. What if Orion is suffering because of me now? Isara's expression immediately turned serious yet deeply affectionate. She shook her head firmly yet gently, her voice filled with unshakable conviction. No, Nyss. You must never think like that. Your sister's fate was tragic, but it was never your fault, no matter what anyone else might have said. She gently lifted Nyss's chin, guiding her to meet her reassuring gaze directly. You are not unlucky or cursed, my dear niece. Orion's circumstances have nothing to do with you or your past. You must believe in yourself and understand that everyone has their own path and destiny. Search *theovelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion is strong and incredibly resilient. Believe in him just as you should believe in yourself. He'll undoubtedly recover swiftly. Nyss gazed silently into her aunt's sincere eyes, feeling the heavy burden in her heart slowly begin to ease under Isara's warm reassurance. Gradually, a quiet determination stirred within her, a faint, fragile hope replacing her previous dread. Do you truly think so? Nyss asked hesitantly, her voice softly vulnerable yet hopeful. Isara smiled warmly, gently squeezing Nyss's hands reassuringly. Absolutely, my dear. We have already talked about Orion and how extraordinary he is. And he's also one of the few who didn't fear talking with you. So as his friend, you must remain strong as well, strong enough to trust in his resilience and your own inner strength. Nyss exhaled softly, finally allowing herself to believe Isara's comforting words fully. She nodded gently, determination shining faintly in her obsidian eyes as the earlier anxiety gradually dissipated. You're right, Aunt, Nyss said softly, a faint yet genuine smile touching her lips for the first time since the troubling news reached her ears. The origin mana pool wouldn't be enough to hurt him seriously. I should just patiently wait to hear from him. Isara's gaze brightened warmly, pride and affection clearly visible as she gently embraced Nyss. Exactly, my dear. Now rest and clear your heart of worries. Tomorrow will surely bring better news. Nyss relaxed softly into her comforting embrace, feeling her earlier anxiety steadily fade under Isara's gentle reassurance. Eventually, Isara stood quietly, gently patting Nyss's shoulder as she moved toward the door. Remember, Nyss, never lose faith in yourself or your friends. Everything will become clear in time. Nyss smiled self-deprecatingly, friends? I only have Orion who even dares to stand with me. The others don't even talk with a straight face. Isara helplessly smiled, well, give them some time, I'm sure they will start treating you like Orion. Nyss softly nodded her head as Isara left the room. In a tranquil room within the royal palace, Arya sat serenely cross-legged upon a luxurious cushion. Her delicate figure was illuminated in the gentle glow of moonlight that filtered through elegantly patterned windows, illuminating her graceful features. Eyes closed, her breathing rhythmic and controlled, she diligently practiced her mana training technique, meticulously cycling mana through her pathways. Beside her, seated comfortably on a plush armchair, Emilia observed quietly, a soft smile gracing her elegant lips. Emilia's presence had changed drastically from when she had visited Orion. Now it was both regal and warm, a perfect embodiment of the royal poise and motherly affection she showed for Arya. Watching Arya practice diligently, Emilia gently broke the silence. You've been training especially hard lately, Arya, Emilia remarked softly, a knowing glint twinkling gently within her eyes. Could this perhaps have something to do with Orion? Arya's cheeks instantly colored slightly, though she kept her eyes closed and mana cycling steady. After a brief pause, she responded with a faint smile, Brother Orion is too talented, Mother. If I don't train hard enough, then how can I keep up with him? Emilia chuckled softly, reaching out gently to stroke Arya's silky lavender hair affectionately. Indeed. Orion is quite the remarkable boy, talented, determined, and with a kind heart. And most importantly, he's the grandson of Uncle Eldrick and Auntie Celine. It's a good thing you two became friends. Arya opened her eyes slowly, determination sparkling brightly in their amethyst depths. He always makes me feel like I can push myself further. And now that he has gathered the most talented students of our batch, it's even more important that I train harder. Emilia smiled gently, her voice warm and understanding. Then continue training hard, Arya. If you need any resources, then just tell us. You are close to reaching the peak of second tier. Arya nodded seriously, her gaze firm and resolute. I understand, Mother. I promise to do my best. The two continued softly chatting about Orion, their voices fading gently into the comforting embrace of the night. The next morning arrived peacefully, golden sunlight spilling softly through the delicate curtains of Orion's room. Orion's eyes slowly opened, blinking gently as he adjusted to the gentle warmth caressing his face. He stretched leisurely, feeling deeply refreshed despite the previous excitement that lingered in his thoughts from the night before. Rising from the comfortable bed, Orion headed straight for the washroom, allowing the cool water to fully awaken his senses. After finishing his morning preparations, he moved to the familiar corner of his room to begin his daily cultivation routines. Master. Oh. He paused, looking at the floating screen. Habits. Shaking his head, he stood up and headed back to the bed. He sat down comfortably at the edge of his bed, eyes flickering thoughtfully. After a quiet moment of contemplation, Orion's lips curled upward slightly, anticipation flickering within his gaze as he softly called out, Lumi, I think it's time for us to finally use that second ascended Gacha draw. Almost instantly, Lumi's cheerful floating screen appeared eagerly beside him, bursting with excited emoticons and enthusiastic words. Yay, Master! Finally, it's gambling time again. Greater than over equal to 4 all less than over equal to, let's hope we get another amazing reward like yesterday's. Orion chuckled softly at Lumi's boundless enthusiasm, nodding in quiet agreement. Indeed. If our luck holds even half as well as yesterday, this draw could very well be worth it. Glad to have you back, St. Bull, thought you dipped, haha. Sorry I couldn't do extra chaps today, was busy in the day with my birthday, so spend all the brain juice there. And yes, I used the same cliffhanger again. Bite me, asterisk greater than over equal to nabla less than over equal to. Chapter 185, Second Ascended Draw. Hee, I'm sure luck will shine brightly on you, Master. Star. Taking a deep breath, Orion steadied his thoughts and softly said, Alright, Lumi. Let's do this. Lumi's floating screen sparkled brightly, brimming with excitement and anticipation. Time to see if Master's luck remains God tier. Let's go. As soon as Orion mentally activated the draw, the familiar sensation of boundless possibilities surged within his heart. The space in front of him flashed gently, forming a swirling vortex of silver and gold threads interwoven intricately, each representing infinite possibilities. Moments later, the vortex gradually condensed, coalescing into a faintly glowing object suspended in midair. It was a translucent token, shimmering softly with an ethereal radiance, inscribed with complex runes glowing gently in an ancient language Orion couldn't recognize at first glance. Curiosity piqued, Orion carefully extended his hand and grasped the token. The moment his fingers brushed against its surface, a wave of serene yet awe-inspiring power surged through him, gently washing over his consciousness. Ding! Congratulations, Master! You have obtained one-time pass to the Akashic Library, spell section. Orion's eyes widened instantly, his breathing quickening in astonishment. He turned the token over slowly in his palm, examining its mysterious inscriptions carefully. SarTheAvafire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Akashic Library? Orion murmured softly, remembering the details about the Akashic records from his past life, But he still asked with curiosity, Lumi, what exactly is this? Lumi's floating screen flickered thoughtfully, seemingly searching for the answer, rare for the usually quick to answer or quick to say no Lumi. Master, the Akashic Library, from what I have gathered from the dragon inheritance, it's incredibly mysterious, even among the celestial structures. From the little I gathered, it's said to be an infinite repository of knowledge containing the truths of countless lesser worlds to prime worlds or even the other kiliocosms. Few beings have ever set foot inside, let alone received direct token like this. Sigma, degree. Orion's heart skipped a beat hearing her words. Infinite knowledge from countless worlds. But it seems to be limited to only the spell section of it. I can probably find spells for all the elements that I need, though. Lumi excitedly flashed multiple sparkly emojis, clearly sharing Orion's excitement and awe. But that's already good enough, Master. We just need to think about it deeply. Orion's grip tightened unconsciously around the precious token, his eyes shining brightly with slight excitement. This treasure is one of the most valuable things I've got. I need to think long and hard about how to use it. I should first look for the spells I can get in here with either money or from the Academy Library. Lumi eagerly bobbed up and down, clearly agreeing. Indeed, Master. After all, it's a one-time pass. We can't be careless with it. Orion nodded calmly, carefully storing the token into his inventory. You're absolutely right, Lumi. It must be used wisely, at the perfect moment. Just then, a soft knock echoed gently from outside Orion's door, followed by the quiet voices of Rina and Fiora. Master, and may we enter? Fiora's gentle voice called out hesitantly, concern evident within her tone. Come in, Orion replied softly, carefully regaining his calm composure. The door opened quietly, and both girls stepped inside, carrying warm towels and other bathing essentials. Upon seeing Orion sitting upright and seemingly well, relief and happiness instantly brightened their faces. Master! You look much better today. Rina exclaimed joyfully, her eyes sparkling with sincere delight. Fiora approached softly, setting the bathing supplies carefully down. Lady Celine instructed us specifically to add these elixirs in your bath and ensure your recovery is smooth, Master. Orion chuckled softly, rising to his feet. All right. Thank you, you too. Let's not make Grandma worry more than necessary. After a refreshing bath assisted by Rina and Fiora, Orion dressed comfortably in fresh clothes and made his way to Seraph's room. Inside, Seraph sat quietly by her favorite window, gentle sunlight caressing her ethereal figure. She turned slowly upon hearing Orion's entrance, her emerald eyes immediately brightening subtly at his presence. Orion smiled warmly, pulling over a chair and sitting down comfortably. Good morning, Seraph. Feeling a bit better today? Seraph nodded softly, looking at him with slightly warm eyes. Her gestures were quiet and reserved, yet clearly expressed gratitude and comfort at his presence. Glad to hear it, Orion continued gently, his voice soothing and calm. He quietly spoke about the city and how he planned to head out today for some work. Throughout their quiet exchange, Seraph mostly responded with gentle nods, clearly appreciating the conversation despite her quiet demeanor. After spending a peaceful time with Seraph, Orion finally excused himself and headed downstairs for breakfast. Eldrick and Celine were already waiting at the dining table, greeting him warmly as he took his seat. After enjoying a light breakfast filled with comforting chatter, Orion raised the matter of the empty store he had requested from Eldrick earlier. Grandpa, Grandma, Orion began calmly, have you found any suitable empty store locations as we discussed earlier? I'd like to take a look today. Eldrick stroked his beard thoughtfully, nodding slowly. Indeed. After you had asked about it, I had Edgar look at our properties. We have several empty stores in the fourth ring of the capital that are vacant and might fit your needs. But lad, are you sure you're feeling well enough to venture out so soon? Celine immediately echoed Eldrick's concern, her expression warm yet mildly worried. Dear, you've just recovered from that streak of breakthroughs. Are you truly sure you are well enough to head outside? Orion smiled reassuringly, understanding their natural worry and gently alleviating their concerns. "Grandma, Grandpa, please rest assured, I'm truly feeling much better today. Besides, a short outing would be refreshing after being cooped up for a few days. I promise to take it easy, and Uncle Edgar and Brother Lucan will be there to help me anyway." After exchanging subtle glances of mutual reassurance, Eldrick finally nodded, a faint smile of approval forming on his lips. "Very well, brat. If you're confident, then do as you wish. And if you feel unwell, then just tell Edgar to bring you back." Celine sighed lightly yet smiled warmly, squeezing Orion's hand affectionately. "All right, dear. Go ahead, but please stay cautious. Stores aren't going anywhere." Orion chuckled softly, his heart feeling warmer than usual. "Don't worry, I promise to be careful." After reassuring his grandparents once more, Orion rose calmly from the table and made his way outside. He stepped into the morning sunlight, its warm rays cascading softly across the lush gardens surrounding his mansion. The gentle hum of bees buzzing through the vibrant flowers surrounding the paved pathway mingled pleasantly with the faint rustle of leaves swaying gently in the morning breeze. As Orion walked through the stone pathways, he spotted Edgar sitting leisurely beneath a large, shady tree in the side garden. Edgar's eyes were half closed in peaceful relaxation, clearly savoring the warmth of the sun's gentle embrace. Lucan sat cross-legged nearby, focused entirely on playing with his pebble, deftly tossing and catching it rhythmically. Upon noticing Orion's approach, both Edgar and Lucan quickly turned toward him, their faces instantly brightening with genuine happiness and mild relief. "Thanks for Conti to suggest me to Gacha idea on Discord." Chapter 186, Leaving for the Market. "Ah, young Master Orion. It's good to finally see you up and about again," Edgar greeted warmly, slowly rising from his comfortable seat. A sincere, gentle smile formed on his usually stern features. Lucan immediately pocketed the pebble and rose to his feet as well, his playful demeanor quickly shifting into one of genuine relief and excitement. "You truly had us worried there, young master. Especially when Instructor Viren brought you out of the academy unconscious the other day." Orion chuckled lightly, raising his hands reassuringly. "Sorry for causing such trouble and worry for everyone. Though I'm genuinely feeling much better now." Lucan shivered exaggeratedly, his eyes widening dramatically in mock terror as he recalled that day vividly. You should have seen the terrifying look on Master Eldrick's face. "I thought for sure that the entire capital would get razed to the ground. Truly, I've never been that terrified in my entire life." Edgar nodded deeply in solemn agreement, though his eyes twinkled faintly with mild amusement at Lucan's dramatic recounting. "I must agree with Lucan on that, young master. I've not seen Master Eldrick display such intense anger in decades. Even I felt chilled down to my bones that day." Orion raised an eyebrow curiously, genuinely intrigued by Edgar's admission. "Decades? Grandpa Eldrick was really that furious? When was the last time you saw him lose control of his anger so severely?" Edgar's expression immediately softened subtly, a flicker of deep sorrow briefly passing through his usually composed gaze. He sighed softly, a hint of quiet reluctance evident in his voice as he responded solemnly, "It was related to young Master Lucian. Just after he had gone missing." A quiet, respectful silence briefly fell over the trio. Orion's curiosity was instantly tempered by empathy and understanding upon hearing the mention of Lucian, whom he knew was his grandparents' deepest, most painful memory. Search * the novel, F.ir.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Sensing Edgar's unwillingness to elaborate further, Orion gently shifted the conversation away, his tone careful yet comforting. "I see. Thank you for sharing, Uncle Edgar. I'll be careful not to worry Grandpa Eldrick again." Edgar's expression gradually relaxed back into his usual calm, appreciative of Orion's sensitivity. Lucan, sensing the quiet tension easing, quickly sought to restore their earlier cheerful atmosphere, flashing Orion a playful grin. "Anyway, putting all that scary business aside," Lucan interjected energetically, "you truly scared me, young master. So, tell me honestly, how are you feeling now?" Are you sure you're truly fine enough to go out today? Edgar also fixed Orion with a careful, assessing gaze, clearly sharing Lucan's concern. Lucan raises a good point, young master. It hasn't been long since you were brought back unconscious. If you feel any discomfort or fatigue at all, let's postpone this outing for another day. Orion smiled warmly at both Edgar's and Lucan's evident care and concern. He calmly reassured them with a confident and appreciative tone. Please trust me, I'm truly feeling perfectly fine. I've already reassured Grandpa Eldrick and Grandma Celine multiple times, and I'm genuinely eager to visit the stores in the Fourth Ring. Besides, getting some fresh air will do me some good. Edgar exchanged a meaningful glance with Lucan, both men carefully evaluating Orion's genuinely calm and confident demeanor. However, both Edgar and Lucan's eyes widened in shock as they carefully assessed his situation. Why young master, what happened to your mana and physique levels? Lucan stuttered, asking with wide eyes. Orion smirked, exerting a little more of his mana outward to let them feel it completely. This is the reason I was unconscious before. The origin mana pool at the academy was much better than I had expected. Edgar and Lucan looked at each other speechlessly. Never in their wildest dreams had they expected someone to reach the 3rd level in 2 paths in such a short amount of time. After a moment, Edgar exhaled a tired sigh and nodded. Very well, young master. Since you are up and well, then we'll gladly accompany you today, he said with a relieved smile and just decided to ignore the rise in his cultivation base. Lucan just silently went ahead and prepared the carriage, as he couldn't be bothered to deal with this nonsense. Instead, he inwardly complained, Tier 3 and 2 paths in a single fucking week. Fucking hell, is Orion the reincarnation of some dragon god? Orion chuckled seeing their reactions as he moved forward with Edgar and approached the elegant carriage waiting quietly at the entrance to the Hellstorm estate. Edgar walked beside him, a subtle yet amused smile playing upon his lips, still clearly entertained by Lucan's reaction to Orion's revelation about his breakthrough. Lucan, on the other hand, stood by the carriage's open door, clearly sulking and in shock. He wore a mildly annoyed yet resigned expression, mumbling quietly to himself that the heavens are unfair as he prepared the horses. Alright, brother Lucan, stop sulking already, Orion chuckled lightly, amused by Lucan's obvious grievance. You look like the sky fell on your head. Lucan threw him a slightly exaggerated glare before sighing heavily, dramatically rubbing his forehead. Young master, I'm honestly beginning to think you're secretly some reincarnation of a dragon god or something. Tier 3 and 2 paths within a single week. Do you even realize how absurd that is? Edgar lightly chuckled, finding it funny but relatable. Orion, on the other hand, just smiled calmly and shrugged, casually stepping up into the carriage. If I am, then shouldn't you feel blessed to serve such a prodigious young master? Lucan sighed again, shaking his head helplessly before grumbling, blessed, cursed, same thing at this point. With a soft chuckle, Edgar followed Orion into the carriage, seating himself comfortably opposite him. Lucan climbed up front to manage the horses, clearly still in mild disbelief at Orion's extraordinary breakthroughs. The carriage smoothly began its journey, quietly rolling out from the gates of the Hellstorm estate and heading towards the bustling 4th ring of the royal capital. Orion relaxed comfortably in his seat, gazing thoughtfully at the lively streets passing swiftly outside his window, his mind filled with plans for the market ahead. Meanwhile, at the Thunder Peak Royal Academy's highest point, nestled gently amidst a shroud of clouds and subtle mystic formations, sat the Sky Pavilion. The imposing yet elegant structure of storm-forged obsidian seemed eternally cloaked in an ethereal veil, silent and majestic, watching over the academy below. Inside, Dean Ilariel sat calmly within her private chamber, a large room lined with neat rows of shelves filled with ancient-looking tomes and meticulously organized documents. Her silvery eyes scanned methodically over the parchment spread across her intricately carved desk, brows subtly knitted in deep contemplation. A soft knock resonated gently from the doorway, followed by a playful yet weary voice calling out, "Dean Ilariel, it's Eleonora. May I enter?" "Come in, Eleonora," Ilariel replied calmly, setting aside the document she had been reviewing. Vice Dean Eleonora stepped gracefully into the room, her presence effortlessly elegant yet noticeably fatigued. Her lustrous black hair cascaded smoothly down her back, framing her striking features and expressive crimson eyes. She sighed heavily as she approached, clearly burdened by troublesome news. Noticing Eleonora's exhausted demeanor, Alariel raised an eyebrow subtly in concern. "Eleonora, you seem unusually tired today. Did something troublesome?" Chapter 187, Emptied the Source? Eleonora offered a wry smile, elegantly settling herself into a chair opposite Alariel's desk before sighing again dramatically. "Troublesome indeed, Alariel. Extremely troublesome. You know, I was inspecting the origin mana pool after Orion's rather extraordinary breakthrough?" "Yes, Viren informed me about the incident," Alariel nodded thoughtfully. "But surely the pool isn't damaged beyond a simple replenishment?" Eleonora's crimson eyes gleamed with subtle frustration and amusement. "If only that were the case. That boy didn't just deplete the surface mana from the pool, he drained even the mana stored deep within its source. I've never witnessed anything quite like this. He somehow managed to completely empty the origin mana pool itself." Dean Alariel's calm and composed expression twitched faintly, eyes widening slightly in genuine astonishment. She quietly pressed her fingers to her temple, a mixture of disbelief and mild exasperation in her tone. "He emptied the source? Completely?" Eleonora nodded tiredly, running a hand through her silky black hair. "Completely, Alariel. It seems we vastly underestimated just how monstrous Orion's capabilities truly are. Now, to restore the origin mana pool to full functionality, we'll need to utilize an immense number of precious resources, mana crystals, high-grade herbs, and even a considerable quantity of rare elemental essences. Honestly, the Academy treasury is going to feel quite the blow." Dean Alariel exhaled slowly, shaking her head softly as a resigned yet amused smile gradually appeared on her lips. "No wonder that old fox Eldrick sent me such an unusual letter. He explicitly warned me not to measure Orion with common sense, else I might perish from shock. I thought he was just exaggerating or joking to boost his grandson's prestige, but clearly, he was genuinely warning me." Eleonora chuckled softly, a hint of playfulness returning to her expression. Indeed, Sir Eldrick was certainly not exaggerating. If Orion hadn't gone to the origin mana pool, the current resources would have been sufficient for months of student use. Now, we'll need to spend quite a fortune replenishing it. Alariel nodded slowly, her gaze turning deeply contemplative. "Well, there's nothing else to be done. We can't leave the origin mana pool depleted, not with the upcoming events and assessments relying heavily upon it. I'll personally authorize immediate procurement of the required resources from our treasury. We'll just have to accept this unexpected expense." Eleonora leaned back in her chair, visibly relieved that Alariel took the news so calmly. "Thank you, Alariel. Honestly, managing the aftermath of Orion's breakthrough has been utterly exhausting. Though I must admit, seeing such an unprecedented event firsthand was genuinely fascinating." Dean Alariel chuckled softly, shaking her head with mild amusement. "Indeed. Orion truly is full of surprises. Let's just hope that his next surprise won't involve draining the Academy's entire treasury. I will also ask the old man for some compensation. I can't just take this loss." Eleonora playfully smirked, rising gracefully from her seat. "Of course, Alariel. He's quite lenient towards you. Who knows, you might get something good from him." As Eleonora departed, Alariel leaned back thoughtfully in her chair, her silvery eyes gazing toward the distant horizon beyond the sky pavilion's windows. "Orion," Alariel murmured softly, lips curving into an intrigued smile, "will you empty my treasury next time?" Back at the fourth ring, the bustling atmosphere gradually intensified as Orion's luxurious obsidian carriage smoothly navigated the vibrant streets toward the heart of the district, finally coming to a halt just outside the lively main marketplace. As the carriage door swung open, Orion calmly stepped down onto the paved street, swiftly followed by Edgar, whose calm face carried a faintly amused glint, knowing what was about to happen. Lucan, still seated at the front, feigned a weary sigh and dramatically rubbed his temples, clearly preparing to offer another one of his creative excuses. "Young master, Sir Edgar," Lucan began with exaggerated weariness, "I suddenly feel a terrible headache coming on. The noise of the market today seems far too taxing. If you don't mind, I'll rest here by the carriage to recover." Orion raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a playful smirk. "Another mysterious illness? Brother Lucan, your talent for avoiding work might be your greatest skill yet." Edgar chuckled lightly, shaking his head in mild amusement. "Indeed, Lucan. Your ailments always have impeccable timing." Lucan merely shrugged helplessly, stretching leisurely on the driver's seat as if already recovering from his fabricated condition. "What can I say? My health is very delicate lately. Please go on without me." Orion rolled his eyes good-naturedly, deciding not to waste any more breath on Lucan's usual antics. "All right, little princess, stay and guard the carriage with your delicate constitution. Uncle Edgar and I have business to attend to." With an amused glance toward each other, Orion and Edgar turned their backs to Lucan's theatrics, making their way leisurely into the bustling marketplace. Lucan quickly reclined against the carriage's plush seat, a contented smile playing on his lips as he watched them disappear into the energetic crowd. Inside the market, Orion immediately felt the lively energy surging around him. The streets were packed with colorful stalls and shops, vibrant crowds of shoppers, and the constant, spirited voices of merchants energetically advertising their wares. Fragrant aromas from food stalls drifted enticingly through the air, mingling pleasantly with the scent of freshly baked bread and exotic spices. Orion's eyes drifted across the lively marketplace, a faint smile of recognition appearing as he glimpsed the stalls he had previously visited. The elderly vendor's hidden stall remained inconspicuous, tucked between larger stalls, where the old man cheerfully called out to passing customers with renewed vigor, clearly energized by Orion's previous generosity. Further along, Orion spotted the familiar ornamental stall managed by the young foxkin woman. She was enthusiastically chatting with a small group of customers, her charming smile effortlessly drawing attention as she expertly showcased her various decorative artifacts. Orion chuckled lightly to himself, deciding against revisiting those places today. His purpose was different. Walking calmly, Orion and Edgar continued to explore, soaking in the bustling atmosphere without pausing for long at any particular vendor. Eventually, Orion found his steps slowing as they reached an area bustling with eateries and establishments that catered to a more leisurely clientele. Before them stood a particularly lavish restaurant. Its exterior was beautifully crafted from polished dark wood and decorated with intricate carvings. The tantalizing aromas wafting from within stirred Orion's appetite. Yet his attention was momentarily diverted by the establishment situated directly opposite, a lavishly decorated brothel. Bright pink silk banners adorned the brothel's elegant facade, gently fluttering in the breeze. Vibrantly dressed courtesans stood at its entrance, playfully enticing passers-by with charming smiles and soft laughter. The restaurant and the brothel, situated directly opposite each other, formed a unique pair that added a distinct vibrancy to this part of the market. Orion was leisurely taking in the unique side of the bustling restaurant and the lively brothel opposite it when suddenly a commotion erupted from within the lavishly decorated establishment. The ornate wooden doors of the brothel swung open abruptly, and a man came flying out, landing with a loud crash directly against the entrance of the elegant restaurant. Gasps and surprised murmurs instantly rippled through the surrounding crowd as everyone's attention quickly snapped toward the unexpected disturbance. The man who had been ejected so forcefully lay sprawled awkwardly against the restaurant's polished steps, groaning faintly. Xianxia, the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Long dirty blonde hair fell messily over his forehead, partially obscuring his handsome yet weary face. Striking blue eyes blinked beneath an assortment of colorful ladies' undergarments comically draped over his face, head, and shoulders. Silk stockings dangled from his arms while lacy ribbons tangled awkwardly in his messy hair. Chapter 188, Magi Alzareth. From the brothel's entrance, a flamboyantly dressed woman, clearly the owner, given her commanding presence, stood with her hands placed firmly on her hips, glaring angrily in the direction of the disheveled man. Listen clearly, Magi, she shouted furiously, her voice strong enough to cut through the market noise. If you don't have money, stop coming here and wasting my girl's time. Next time you try, I'll make sure you can't walk out. The crowd surrounding Orion and Edgar began buzzing softly with hushed whispers, their voices tinged with disdain and pity. Isn't that Magi Alzareth? Murmured a nearby elderly vendor, shaking his head in disappointment. Such a waste, really. He was once a true genius, praised all throughout the city. Yes, that's him, the fourth son of that famous merchant family, whispered a middle-aged woman selling fresh fruit nearby. I heard he used to be incredibly talented. He was such a genius in business that he raised his family standing in the city at the mere age of 16. Rumors said he'd become even more successful than his father. Another bystander quickly joined the conversation, adding with a sigh, but that all changed suddenly when he left the capital several years ago. When he finally returned, he had become like this, a useless drunk, wasting away his wealth and reputation. What a tragedy. Orion's eyes narrowed thoughtfully as he listened intently to the murmurs around him. His curiosity was thoroughly piqued by this sudden turn of events and the unexpected history behind this seemingly broken individual. Magi groaned weakly from where he lay sprawled upon the restaurant steps, slowly pushing himself upward with obvious difficulty. Staggering unsteadily to his feet, he swayed slightly as he removed the various undergarments covering his head and shoulders, tossing them to the ground with a tired sigh. His expression was one of weary resignation, slowly calming down with mild annoyance. Ugh, these people have no respect for true gentlemen anymore, Magi muttered under his breath with exaggerated dignity, the slight slur in his speech betraying his still partially drunken state. Orion chuckled softly to himself, quietly amused by Magi's unexpected and colorful personality despite his seemingly unfortunate circumstances. Edgar beside him simply shook his head, eyes betraying mild amusement mingled with a hint of genuine sympathy. Just as Orion was about to turn his attention elsewhere, his eyes caught an unexpected sight. A small, pure white bunny sat calmly perched atop Magi's disheveled shoulder, completely undisturbed by the commotion or its owner's embarrassment. Orion raised an eyebrow curiously, intrigued by the presence of the unusually composed bunny amidst such chaotic surroundings. The small creature's fur was impeccably clean, its delicate ears twitching occasionally as it gazed around with curious yet calm red eyes, seeming almost entirely detached from the man's current predicament. Now that's certainly intriguing, Orion thought, his interest in Magi increasing significantly upon noticing the peculiar pet. Interesting, isn't it, young master? Edgar murmured softly beside him, clearly noting Orion's thoughtful gaze. The Alzareth family is indeed rich and renowned throughout the capital. Magi here was expected to become their greatest pride, but now he's merely a laughingstock. Orion nodded thoughtfully, eyes still fixated upon Magi, whose clumsy attempts to straighten his clothing only caused further amusement among onlookers. But why doesn't he have money if he's from one of the richest families in the capital? Edgar shook his head in disappointment. For some reason, he started to consume the family's money like crazy when he returned, and in anger, his father and the other elders of his family banned him from using a single coin of the house. Since then, he's been living like this. Orion rubbed his chin while looking at Magi deeply. Magi, such a punchable name, yet such an interesting character. Uncle Edgar, let's have a chat with him. Let's invite him inside the restaurant to have a chat. I might need his help, he said slowly. Edgar shook his head. It's hard to get his help. Many tried, but to no avail. He doesn't even want money. Orion shook his head. Then I'll just have to try myself. Xianxia.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He calmly approached Magi Alzareth, stepping carefully around the scattered undergarments still lying haphazardly on the stone steps leading up to the elegant restaurant. Edgar followed behind him, his expression showing mild intrigue, clearly curious about Orion's sudden decision. Magi, still half-staggering and swaying lightly from the lingering effects of alcohol, noticed the approaching figure and slowly raised his head. His striking blue eyes, although clouded with fatigue, held a trace of clear intellect as he observed Orion curiously, perhaps sensing that the young man wasn't just another curious onlooker. Orion smiled politely, voice gentle yet confident. Magi Alzareth, wanna join us for lunch? I have a proposal you might find interesting. Magi's gaze grew more focused, a hint of suspicion and curiosity flickering momentarily in his eyes. He tilted his head slightly, causing the bunny perched calmly on his shoulder to adjust her balance subtly. A slow, faint smile formed on his lips, revealing a charismatic demeanor beneath the disheveled appearance. Lunch, you say? Magi repeated slowly, eyes flashing briefly with genuine amusement. Well, who in their right mind would refuse free food and good alcohol? Orion's lips twitched. I don't remember offering alcohol. However, he was also surprised at how effortlessly Magi accepted the invitation. He had expected resistance, considering what Edgar mentioned about others previously attempting to reach him unsuccessfully. Yet the man readily agreed, as if thoroughly unconcerned or simply too tired to resist. Edgar looked at the scene with a smile. Well, he only rejected them, not their free food. Then, please, Orion gestured politely toward the entrance of the elegant restaurant behind them, join us inside. Let's have a proper meal and a pleasant chat. Edgar stepped forward, calmly motioning to one of the attending staff members, discreetly instructing them to prepare a private room for the three of them. The staff immediately responded with expertise, probably a daily occurrence with such guests, escorting the trio through the bustling, aromatic restaurant and into a lavish private dining room. As the doors closed softly behind them, Orion sat comfortably across from Magi, observing the man curiously. Edgar settled into a seat beside Orion, maintaining a composed and respectful silence, carefully watching Magi's reactions. Magi casually reclined in his chair, his eyes exploring the lavish decor of the room with mild amusement. Yet his casual demeanor held faint traces of vigilance, his guard subtly raised despite his seemingly careless appearance. Thank you again for accepting my invitation, Orion began calmly, ready to broach the subject of business. But before he could continue, Magi quickly raised his hand, cutting him off politely yet firmly. Wait, first things first. I'm starving, Magi said frankly, grinning unabashedly as his stomach emitted an embarrassingly loud growl. Let's eat and drink first. Business can wait. Orion blinked, slightly surprised by Magi's straightforwardness, but he quickly recovered, nodding his head. Of course, let's have our meal first. With a quick gesture from Edgar, the restaurant staff promptly served a sumptuous feast, tender grilled meats, flavorful soups, freshly baked bread, and exquisite desserts, accompanied by the restaurant's finest aged wines. Magi wasted no time eagerly diving into the meal, thoroughly savoring each bite as though he hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Chapter 189, Proposal. The meal proceeded in silence, Orion occasionally exchanging amused glances with Edgar, who simply smiled in subtle amusement, patiently waiting for the proper time to resume their discussion. The bunny sitting calmly on Magi's shoulder occasionally nibbled on pieces of fresh vegetables provided specifically for her, her calm red eyes always observing quietly. Once their meal was finished, Orion calmly set aside his empty plate and leaned slightly forward, carefully choosing his words. Your bunny, Orion commented softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Looks quite interesting. Clearly more than just an ordinary pet. Magi paused, gently turning his head to glance fondly at the pure white bunny nestled comfortably against his neck. His gaze softened noticeably, an affectionate warmth flickering briefly within his tired eyes. Her name is Luna, Magi said gently, the faintest trace of vulnerability evident within his voice. She's the only family I have left now. Orion nodded respectfully, sensing genuine sincerity behind Magi's words. Then, carefully steering the conversation back toward his original purpose, he spoke gently yet seriously, Magi, I invited you here today because I've heard of your past successes in business and finance. I plan on opening a new business within the capital, and I believe you would be perfect to manage it. Magi's expression shifted abruptly, his previously relaxed posture turning noticeably rigid. His gaze sharpened with sudden intensity, briefly revealing a glimpse of the brilliant mind hidden beneath the casual facade. Without hesitation, he shook his head firmly, his voice flat yet polite. I'm sorry, but I refuse. Orion calmly maintained his composure, clearly expecting Magi's initial rejection. Magi, hear me out, he pressed gently, leaning forward earnestly. I'm offering you not just money or a simple job. I'm giving you a chance to rebuild yourself, to regain the respect and recognition you once had. Magi's smile turned slightly bitter, though his eyes never wavered. I appreciate your intentions, young man, but what I truly want is something you are not capable of giving me. Not yet, at least. Orion frowned thoughtfully, feeling the sincerity in Magi's words. Tell me, then, he pressed firmly yet gently, what exactly is it that you want? Perhaps I can provide it, or at least help you find a path toward it. Magi studied Orion carefully, his eyes narrowing slightly with curiosity and skepticism. Believe me, Orion, what I want cannot be provided easily. In fact, you are not yet qualified to grant my wish. Orion inwardly mused at his words, wondering if it's really something so impossible to grant. He didn't think that Magi was ignorant of the world, quite the opposite. He must have a solid grasp on the workings of the world due to his business mindset. He looked at him and seriously asked, does it truly hurt to simply tell me? Let me be the judge of whether or not I can fulfill your wish. Magi was about to refuse again when Edgar finally spoke up calmly, his voice steady yet filled with subtle authority. Magi Alzareth, do you truly understand who you are speaking with? Orion Hellstorm here is the direct heir of the Hellstorm family, grandson of Eldrick Hellstorm. He is widely recognized as the greatest prodigy the Thunder Peak Kingdom has ever seen. This small kingdom won't be able to hold him for long. Do consider the proposal calmly because you won't get such chances again. Magi's eyes widened in genuine surprise, clearly caught off guard by Edgar's sudden revelation. His posture visibly shifted as seriousness replaced his previously casual demeanor entirely. He looked at Orion with an intense, piercing stare, carefully weighing Edgar's words. After a heavy, contemplative silence, Magi finally spoke, his voice quiet yet deeply earnest. Very well. Orion Hellstorm, I do not wish to request anything from you now. But if in the future you truly become strong enough, influential enough, capable enough, I will request a favor from you. A favor that I can't hope to achieve with my meager talent. Orion carefully considered Magi's words, sensing the immense amount of thought he put into them. After a moment's thoughtful pause, Orion met Magi's gaze firmly, his own voice calm and resolute. Then let it be so. As long as this favor does not conflict with my own conscience, I promise I will fulfill your request to the best of my abilities. Magi stared deeply into Orion's unwavering eyes for a prolonged moment before finally nodding slowly, visibly satisfied with Orion's sincere response. Then, Orion Hellstorm, we have a deal. I shall manage your business, and in return, someday, you will repay me. Orion exhaled a sigh of relief and nodded his head. All right, then that's settled, Magi. How about we head to see the shop? Magi shrugged slightly, his expression gradually returning to its earlier carefree demeanor. Sure, lead the way. Since you've already fed me, the least I can do is check out the place I'll be managing for you. The trio stood up from their seats, Edgar calmly instructing the attendants to handle the cleanup and giving them the payment while Orion and Magi moved toward the exit. SarTheAlvafire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Stepping out of the luxurious restaurant, they returned to the bustling streets of the Fourth Ring Market, its vibrant atmosphere unchanged as merchants energetically advertised their wares and crowds moved like waves of color through the busy streets. This way, Edgar calmly said, stepping ahead confidently to guide Orion and Magi toward the heart of the marketplace, specifically the district known for having the most prestigious and busiest shops in the entire Fourth Ring. As they walked deeper into the shopping district, Orion couldn't help but marvel at the impressive array of high-end establishments lining both sides of the street. Lavishly decorated shops showcased their luxurious goods behind crystal-clear glass windows, from elegant clothing stores displaying silken garments embroidered with precious threads, to sophisticated jewelry boutiques offering intricately crafted gems that sparkled brilliantly beneath expertly enchanted lighting. After several minutes of navigating the lively streets, Edgar finally led them to a prominent three-story building situated centrally within this prestigious shopping district. The large store stood imposingly, its beautifully carved stone design displaying intricate architectural patterns that added a subtle elegance to its appearance. Despite its grandeur, the shop stood visibly empty, devoid of signs or decorations, a blank canvas awaiting its future purpose. "Here it is," Edgar said calmly, motioning toward the large empty store. "This is one of the largest properties we own within this district. The location is exceptional, as it attracts numerous high-profile customers daily. I'm sure you can turn it into something impressive, young master." Orion stepped forward, closely followed by Magi, their gazes simultaneously assessing the large empty space. Inside, the store was spacious and open, the high ceilings and large windows allowing abundant natural light to stream gently inside, illuminating every corner clearly. Wide staircases connected all 3 floors, each level offering generous amounts of space for potential goods and displays. Magi's eyes scanned the interior carefully, immediately noting its strong points, the easily accessible layout, the strategic positioning within the shopping district, and its sheer size, perfect for showcasing an extensive range of goods. After a moment's quiet appraisal, Magi nodded approvingly, turning to Orion with a clearly impressed gaze. "You truly chose one hell of a location, Lil Orion. Even an average manager can make this place into something big. Much less me." His gaze, however, turned slightly troubled as he continued, "But here lies the main issue, we have nothing to sell. An empty store, no matter how excellent the location or beautiful the decoration, is worthless without valuable goods to attract customers." Chapter 190, Limitless Heaven. Edgar was about to interject, clearly prepared to reassure Magi that arranging things to sell would be no issue for their family. But before Edgar could speak, Orion calmly reached into his pocket and retrieved a storage ring. With a casual flick of his wrist, Orion tossed the storage ring toward Magi, who instinctively caught it, slightly confused. Orion gestured toward the ring with a faint smirk, calmly saying, "Take a look inside. Let's see if those are good enough for starting our store." Magi looked at the ring curiously before carefully infusing a trace of his weak mana into the storage ring, his eyes slightly widening in astonishment as he viewed its contents. Inside lay dozens of treasures, artifacts, weapons, armors, and even several potions of varying effects. Magi looked back at Orion with an even more interested gaze, quite surprised by the number of treasures a young man like him held. "Did you take these treasures from Hellstorm Estate? Most of them are above-average treasures for their level. And some of them are even high-grade treasures to which the nobles and high-ranking commoners will flock." Orion shrugged, maintaining his calm smile. "Does that really matter where I got these treasures from? My grandpa or grandma might have given these to me, or I might have found them on the street lying down. You just need to use them as you see fit. The only requirement for you is to grow the business. Oh, and don't worry, I'll also give you more in a while." After briefly reassessing the collection, Magi carefully nodded, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. "These should be good enough for a while, and if everything goes well, then I can keep the store running longer with the money we'll get after selling these. A few of these high-level artifacts alone will significantly boost our reputation and attract those high and mighty nobles." He felt his excitement growing, thinking about finally getting some money for booze. "Good lad, this is some good stuff. Let's talk about decoration and advertising next." Magi and Orion talked for a bit about the decoration as they decided to place 3 high-grade treasures on the first floor as attraction pieces while placing the rest, low to high grade, in ascending order on the floors. Orion, feeling satisfied with this drunkard's enthusiasm about the shop, suggested, "We should also host an opening event, perhaps a limited-time exhibition showcasing our best treasures, accompanied by exclusive discounts or auctions. The gossiping crowd should do their job then. I'm sure there are a lot of unemployed aunties here to do that." Magi's eyes sparkled brightly at the mention of aunties. "Yes. I know a lot of them. TSK, you don't know the joy of talking with them. They chat the most and spread the word fastest. That's a damn genius idea. I'll also get an excuse to talk with some of the ones I had eyes on. Xianxia the novelfire.net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He's such a pervert master. Both Edgar and Orion looked at him speechlessly, while simultaneously deciding to ignore his remarks and focus on other things. They continued to talk about the finer details until they had finalized the starting phase of the store. At the end, Magi asked, "Have you thought of a suitable name for our establishment?" Orion paused briefly, rubbing his chin in thought. "Let's call it Limitless Heaven. A place that offers goods beyond mortal reach." "Are you trying to use Echo's treasury as your personal treasure storage, master? And I'm limitless, are you making me a shop?" Carrot. "Haha, I have further plans with this name. As for Echo, well, since he allowed me to draw infinite times with the use of SP, then I will exploit it to the fullest. And, my dear Lumi wouldn't mind me using her name here, right?" he inwardly said with a smile. "Hee, of course Lumi won't mind. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to." Orion inwardly shook his head. "So, what do you think?" Magi skeptically looked at him. "Limitless Heaven? It doesn't tell customers what kind of place this is, if it's a damn temple or a cult." Orion looked at him with a deadpan expression. "Deal with it." Magi smiled and rubbed his chin. "Limitless Heaven, treasures beyond mortal reach. Yes, this will hit others differently from the usual Chamber of Commerce this and Chamber of Commerce that nonsense. Aunties will gossip no matter what, and why else are we here? We can spread the name that it's a treasure house." Satisfied with his plan, Orion nodded his head and changed the topic. "By the way, how strong are you? We need to make sure of the store's security as well." Magi looked at Orion for a second. Seeing that he was genuinely asking, he spread his hands and bitterly chuckled. "As you can see, I have barely formed my affinity rune after forcefully opening my sea of consciousness with others' help. I have next to no talent for mana or physique training. I tried to train in the physique, but my body nearly broke down on the first refinement, so I had to stop." "Looks like all your talent went into picking up girls and finance," Orion said while patting his shoulder. Magi shook his head. "Do I need talent for picking up girls with a face as handsome as this?" Orion's lips twitched. This guy is really punchable. "All right then, Uncle Edgar," he said and turned toward him, "can we put some guards here? About time I ask for help as well." Edgar smiled. "Of course, young master. There are quite a few idle guards sitting at other shops. I will have them arranged here." Orion nodded with a smile and turned back to Magi. "That's settled then. As for the starting fund?" Magi shook his head. "No need for that. There are quite a few people who owe me some money from all those years ago. It's about time debt collector Magi returns to his peak and gets my money back. I can use that to start the business. With your house name and guards, it should be easy to take the debt back." Satisfied with all the arrangements, Orion finally stepped back, smiling at Magi. "Then I'll leave the rest in your capable hands. Do as you wish with this store." Magi chuckled and nodded with a smile. "Leave everything to me, boss. I promise you won't be able to recognize this place the next time you come here." With their business concluded, Orion calmly exited the store, Edgar walking beside him silently as they returned to the waiting carriage. After several quiet steps, Edgar finally broke the silence, clearly intrigued by Orion's motivations. "Young master, forgive my curiosity, but why exactly did you want to open this store? If it's just about money, you know Master Eldrick and Lady Celine would gladly provide as much as you need," Edgar said gently, genuine curiosity in his voice. Orion paused briefly, shaking his head lightly. His gaze turned thoughtful as he said with a voice filled with profound wisdom, "This isn't merely about money, Uncle Edgar. It's something I genuinely want to do for myself, building something meaningful through my own efforts. Don't you just want a place to dump the trash you get from gachas?" Chapter 191, Fiora and Rina's past. "Why are you after my ass for the last few days? Let me act in peace." for all. Inwardly shaking his head, he continued with a sincere tone, moreover, this business will also fund my future activities as well as help me to grow my influence in the noble circle. I don't plan to limit it to this capital, this is just a start. Edgar nodded thoughtfully, deep respect clear in his expression as he fully understood Orion's deeper intentions. I see, young master. In that case, rest assured, I and everyone else will fully support your decision. We eagerly anticipate witnessing your growth and success. Orion smiled warmly, appreciating the fact that he had such a nice group of people gathered around him. Slowly, they made their way back to the carriage as they found Lucan sunbathing beside it. Edgar shook his head looking at him, while Orion moved forward and kicked the chair away, making him fall to the ground. Who dare disturb this young mas? His words caught in his throat as he saw Orion standing beside him with a calm smile. Ahaha, young master, you are back. How was the store? Did you like it? Orion heaved a sigh and got up on the carriage. Yes, you can ask the details from Uncle Edgar later. Let's head back home now. I'm feeling tired. Lucan jumped from the ground and quickly got into his seat, while Edgar boarded the carriage, slowly chuckling, and sat in front of Orion. By the time the obsidian carriage finally entered through the gates of the Hellstorm estate, the warm glow of late afternoon bathed the entire place in a soft light. Orion stepped down from the carriage, stretching briefly as he inhaled the fresh, soothing scent of blooming flowers drifting gently in the breeze. Lucan quickly drove the carriage away toward the stables, clearly eager to escape any potential reprimand after his earlier laziness. Edgar calmly stood beside Orion, a gentle, contented smile evident upon his face. Together, they walked into the mansion, Orion's steps slightly slower now due to mild fatigue from the day's activities. Inside the spacious main hall, Eldrick and Celine awaited their return, seated comfortably at a small tea table near the large windows. Eldrick wore his usual composed expression, quietly sipping his tea, while Celine's warm eyes immediately brightened upon seeing Orion approach. My dear, welcome back, Celine greeted gently, smiling warmly as Orion moved forward and took a seat opposite them. How was your outing? Did the store meet your expectations? Orion nodded contentedly, the satisfaction clear in his voice as he leaned back comfortably. It exceeded them, actually. I met an interesting fellow named Magi Alzareth, and he agreed to manage the store for us. The location you chose is truly perfect. Eldrick raised an eyebrow slightly, interest flickering in his eyes at the mention of Magi's name. Alzareth, you say? That was a merchant family the last time I was here. Did one of their descendants catch your eye? Sia the Novelier.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion nodded his head. The guy I mentioned was a former merchant prodigy who became a notorious wastrel recently. He chuckled before continuing, though I believe he still has his talent and just needs a reason to make good use of it. He accepted my proposal in the end, now all that remains is to see if he can manage the store properly or not. Celine gently set down her teacup, her gaze soft yet approving. I trust your judgment completely, Orion. If you feel confident in this man, then we will support your decision wholeheartedly. Eldrick nodded slowly, stroking his beard thoughtfully. Just be cautious with him. While talent is crucial, reliability matters more. Still, it is reassuring to see you making such thoughtful decisions on your own. Orion smiled appreciatively, grateful for their unwavering trust and support. Thank you, Grandpa, Grandma. I'll keep a close eye on Magi and the store. For now, everything seems promising. His name is Magi yet he couldn't become a decent mage. Greater than over equal to nabla less than over equal to, /. He inwardly chuckled at her words, before his expression turned slightly more contemplative. Realizing he wouldn't be allowed to engage in strenuous training for several days due to his recent breakthroughs, he suddenly asked, by the way, Grandma Celine, how are Rina and Fiora doing with their training? Have they shown any progress recently? Celine's expression brightened further, genuine enthusiasm evident in her voice as she replied warmly, don't underestimate them, dear. Both girls possess Tier 3 affinity for their respective elements. They've also been very diligent in their training for some reason these past few days. Orion raised an eyebrow in mild astonishment, pleasantly surprised by this revelation. Tier 3 affinities? That's genuinely impressive. It seems I greatly underestimated their potential. They can contend against the top geniuses of my year in the academy. Celine nodded, pride clear in her gentle smile. Indeed, dear. With proper guidance and resources, both girls can become strong awakeners. They've also shown remarkable determination in their training sessions. A thoughtful silence settled briefly over the trio, broken only when Orion's expression turned slightly hesitant yet deeply curious. He leaned forward slightly, carefully choosing his next words. Grandma, Grandpa, speaking of Rina and Fiora, I realize I still don't know much about their backgrounds. They've served me loyally since the beginning, yet I know nothing about where they come from or how they ended up here. Could you tell me more about them? At Orion's question, Eldrick and Celine exchanged a subtle, cautious glance, hesitation clearly visible in their expressions. Eldrick sighed softly, his voice calm yet noticeably troubled. Their story isn't exactly simple, Orion. Celine nodded slowly, clearly conflicted as she gently continued, both girls carry difficult pasts, my dear. We chose to keep their backgrounds hidden to protect them from old wounds and painful memories. Orion's gaze softened noticeably, sincerity evident in his gentle response. I understand your intentions, and I deeply respect them. But if I'm to care for them properly as their master, I should know what burdens they carry, if only to ensure their pasts don't hinder their futures. Eldrick exhaled softly, deeply moved by Orion's genuine concern for both the girls' well-being. After exchanging another meaningful glance with Celine, he finally nodded slowly, deciding to reveal their past. Very well, lad, Eldrick said with a serious expression. We will tell you, but please promise to handle the information with sensitivity. Both Rina and Fiora endured hardships most cannot even imagine, and these wounds still trouble them deeply. Though I do think they would only have little memory of it. Orion nodded slowly, his expression solemn and sincere as he carefully met Eldrick's and Celine's gazes. You have my word, Grandpa, Grandma. Whatever you tell me will stay with me. I promise to handle their pasts with care. Eldrick drew a deep breath, his eyes briefly distant as though gazing into memories that weighed heavily upon his heart. Then let's start with Rina first, he said quietly, voice softer than usual. Her story is something that still hurts us deeply. As Eldrick began to speak, his voice gradually faded into a heavy, somber whisper. The scene slowly shifted, pulling Orion into a vivid recollection of a grim past, painted with hues of pain and suffering. Chapter 192, Heavy Hearts. The darkness was thick, illuminated only by roaring flames that consumed homes and shops, casting eerie, moving shadows on the charred remains of buildings. An anguished chorus of despair, screams and cries intermingled with the crackling of fire and grotesque laughter, filled the night air, heavy with the stench of smoke, blood, and death. In the heart of this devastated town walked Eldrick and Celine, their expressions steeled with grimness and anger as they moved swiftly yet cautiously through the streets strewn with rubble and corpses. Eldrick's eyes blazed with wrathful resolve as lightning crackled fiercely around his fists, the energy occasionally lashing out to obliterate any demonic creature unfortunate enough to cross their path. Celine moved alongside him with equal urgency, her graceful steps unhindered by the chaos around them, a glowing barrier occasionally manifesting around her to shield herself and Eldrick from demonic assaults. The elderly couple paused occasionally, aiding survivors who managed to escape the slaughter, comforting the wounded, or quickly dispatching rampaging demons with merciless efficiency. The night seemed endless, the screams infinite, yet their resolve never wavered. Hours passed, and as dawn broke, the first gentle rays of morning sun shone over a town reduced to smoldering ruins and lifeless bodies. Eldrick stood silently, exhaustion clear in his posture as he surveyed the devastation. Beside him, Celine's expression was heavy with sorrow and fatigue, eyes flashing with sadness as she took in the scene around her. We were too late, Eldrick murmured bitterly, his voice heavy with regret and anger. So many lives lost, so much destruction. Celine gently placed a comforting hand on his arm, silently offering her strength. Just as they turned to leave, a faint, heart-wrenching sobbing reached their ears, carried softly on the gentle morning breeze. Both immediately tensed, their eyes alertly scanning the ruins. Following the sound carefully, they soon found its source, a small girl sitting alone amidst the wreckage, her tiny figure trembling violently as tears streamed endlessly down her soot-covered cheeks. The girl, no older than 5 or 6, was huddled before 2 motionless bodies lying protectively beside her. Her small, dirted hands clutched desperately at the torn clothing of her parents, whose lifeless faces remained frozen in expressions of desperate, hopeless protection. Seeing this tragic sight, Celine immediately felt her heart ache painfully, memories of her own loss resurfacing sharply within her chest. Without hesitation, she approached gently, slowly lowering herself to the girl's level as she whispered soothingly, "It's all right, child. You're safe now." The small girl flinched briefly at the gentle voice, lifting her watery gaze toward Celine. Her frightened, confused eyes met Celine's warm, compassionate ones, and after a brief pause, the girl lunged forward, burying herself desperately into Celine's comforting embrace. Celine tenderly wrapped her arms around the small, fragile child, softly murmuring reassuring words. "You're not alone anymore, little one. You're not alone." Eldrick watched silently, his expression deeply sorrowful yet resolute. Witnessing this child suffering reopened wounds from his own past, reminding him painfully of their lost son, Lucian. But rather than succumb to despair, Eldrick quietly clenched his fists, determination igniting fiercely within his gaze. "We'll take care of her," he softly whispered, voice steady and decisive. "We won't let her endure this tragedy alone." Search * the novel, F.ir.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Celine gently nodded, holding the sobbing girl protectively. "Indeed, we will." As Eldrick's voice gradually faded, Orion's consciousness shifted back to the present. The mansion's quiet, comforting ambience slowly returned, the late afternoon sunlight streaming gently through the large windows. Orion remained silent, absorbing the deeply painful story Eldrick had just shared. His heart felt heavy, filled with quiet empathy and respect for both his grandparents and Rina. He had known Rina for a while now, yet the depth of her tragedy brought an entirely new dimension to his understanding of the playful yet gentle girl who faithfully served him. Eldrick sighed softly, slowly returning to the present moment, his voice filled with a quiet, lingering sadness. "That child was Rina. We decided then to bring her back, to raise her away from that horror, and to offer her a new life, one filled with care and safety. But even after so many years, her heart carries deep scars." Orion nodded gently, his gaze steady and compassionate as he quietly spoke, "Thank you for trusting me with her story. I'll make sure she continues to feel safe and cared for. I'll make sure that she won't be hurt by her past again." Celine smiled softly, feeling touched by Orion's empathy and kindness. "We know you won't, dear. That's exactly why we decided to tell you. Rina is incredibly fortunate to have a master as kind and understanding as you." Eldrick quietly met Orion's eyes, deep trust clear in his expression. "This was also the reason why we brought her together with us toward the ruined city before. It was to see how she is recovering. And from what I observed, she is pretty much past it, but we can never be too careful." Orion nodded his head in understanding, remembering how she had softly held his hand to show support during that time. Sighing lightly, he asked, "What about Fiora?" Celine slowly nodded, her expression becoming grave as her gentle eyes carried a hint of sadness and pity. She exchanged a quiet glance with Eldrick, who gently encouraged her with a subtle nod, silently indicating for her to proceed. Drawing in a deep breath, she finally began Fiora's story. "Fiora's past is more complicated and painful in its own way," Celine spoke softly, her voice calm yet tinged with lingering regret. Her gaze briefly drifted toward the window, watching the slowly fading golden rays of the late afternoon sun. Unlike Rina, Fiora wasn't a victim of a demonic invasion or tragedy. Her situation was born of a darker secret. Orion leaned slightly forward, deeply attentive, his expression patient and understanding, waiting quietly for Celine to continue. Celine's voice softened further, carrying him back into a distant memory. It was many years ago. Eldrick and I had just left Thunder Peak for one of our journeys across the kingdom's borders, exploring regions that lay forgotten and untouched by the other peoples. The scene gently shifted to reveal a small, isolated village hidden within dense forests nestled near the foot of a towering mountain. A humble yet peaceful community, untouched by external strife, thrived beneath the protective shadow of ancient trees. But the tranquility of this remote village concealed a terrible secret, a secret buried years ago, yet waiting to erupt in violence and despair. The villagers, we later discovered, had suffered a devastating attack decades before. Celine continued quietly, voice filled with sorrow. A rogue draconian, one of the rare, powerful descendants of true dragons, had gone berserk, unleashing violence and destruction upon the village. As Celine spoke, images unfolded vividly. The shadowy, terrifying silhouette of a rogue draconian rampaged through the village, massive scaled limbs crushing buildings effortlessly, fiery breath setting homes ablaze, and monstrous roars shaking the earth beneath terrified villagers desperately fleeing for safety. Eventually, the rogue draconian was subdued at an immense cost. Lives were lost, and hearts were shattered. The village slowly rebuilt itself, determined to leave the horror behind. Celine continued softly, her eyes distant as memories flowed clearly before her. Chapter 193, Changing Bloodlines? However, hidden amidst the chaos of that tragedy was a child unknowingly born from that rogue draconian's lineage, bearing the cursed bloodline of dragons within her veins. That child was Fiora. Orion's eyes widened slightly, realization dawning upon him as he comprehended the implications of her revelation. Celine continued solemnly, initially, Fiora appeared completely human. For years, the villagers, though wary, raised her alongside their own children, hoping desperately that she might escape her tainted heritage. Fiora herself was unaware of her lineage, blissfully ignorant of the danger sleeping within her blood. Celine's voice faltered momentarily, a hint of anguish briefly visible in her gentle eyes. But everything changed when Fiora turned 9. It was then that the dormant draconic bloodline within her violently awakened. The scene rapidly shifted to that fateful night. Under a crimson moon, Fiora's small body twisted violently, her pained screams filling the night air as scales burst from her skin, sharp claws and fangs erupting amidst her anguished cries. Transformed into a terrifying half-human, half-dragon creature, Fiora's consciousness was consumed by uncontrollable instinctual rage. Fiora wreaked havoc upon her village in her awakened state, Celine whispered bitterly, her voice heavy with deep regret and sympathy. She attacked indiscriminately, her uncontrollable draconic instincts driving her to destroy anyone in her path, including the very villagers who raised her as one of their own. In the vivid memory, fires burned fiercely, panicked villagers screamed and fled desperately. Eldrick and Celine arrived swiftly, alerted by the chaos erupting within the peaceful forest. They immediately confronted the rampaging child dragon, quickly subduing Fiora with spells carefully aimed to render her unconscious without harming her fragile, innocent soul. The aftermath was devastating. Nearly half of the village lay in ruins, countless lives lost to Fiora's uncontrolled rampage, including her own mother, who had desperately attempted to calm her daughter's wrathful transformation. Celine's voice quivered softly, filled with lingering grief. When we understood the situation, we couldn't bear to punish the innocent child. Instead, I used my most powerful sealing spells to restrain Fiora's draconic bloodline, suppressing its violent instincts within her body. But such suppression has its costs, and we knew one day she'd have to face this burden again. Celine's voice slowly faded as Orion returned to the present moment, the weight of her story pressing deeply upon him. Silence enveloped the room, each of them lost momentarily in contemplation. Orion exhaled softly, his expression calm yet deeply thoughtful as he finally spoke. Is Fiora aware of her lineage now? Does she remember any of that night? Eldrick shook his head gently, expression troubled. She remembers very little, mostly fragmented nightmares and vague fears. That's why she has a meek and introverted personality. We chose to hide this truth from her to protect her fragile heart, at least until she was strong enough to face it. Celine gently reached over, squeezing Orion's hand warmly yet firmly. We decided to train her and guide her so that one day, when she inevitably confronts her dragon lineage again, she'll be strong enough and prepared enough to handle it. Orion nodded slowly, feeling deeply moved by both Rina's and Fiora's stories. Understanding and compassion deepened further within his heart, bringing newfound determination to his gaze. With a deep exhale, he said, "I'll take care of them, I promise. No matter what challenges await them in the future, I'll be by their side." Eldric's gaze softened warmly, deeply moved by Orion's sincerity and compassion. "We trust you fully, lad. We've watched your growth and character carefully, and we believe that Rina and Fiora couldn't ask for a better master to guide them through whatever darkness awaits their fate." Celine smiled warmly, gently squeezing Orion's hand again with maternal affection. "Thank you, Orion. With you by their side, I'm confident they'll both find the strength to overcome their pasts, embrace their potential, and forge brighter futures." Orion finally smiled, calmly nodding his head. "Then I'll continue to be their perfect master." CTHOvelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The three of them continued to chat for a bit longer before Orion excused himself and headed for his room. After entering, he hit the bed and exhaled a long, tired breath. "Master, Fiora, and Rina. I didn't expect the two of them to have such troubled pasts. Especially Rina, with her bubbly personality." Orion turned around, gazing at the ceiling. "I didn't expect that either. Who knew how much sadness the two of them were hiding behind their bright smiles? But master, maybe we can do something about Fiora?" Orion thoughtfully nodded his head. "You mean give her my dragon blood to make her a full-blooded draconian? We don't know what will become of her, as you are not a simple true dragon anymore. It matters little. It would still be much better than what she is. But we can't experiment on her, we first need some lab rat to test the waters on. And you also need to first reach some level of understanding of your bloodline. It's still at 0% currently." Winky face. He nodded. "Yes, I should be able to start learning more about my bloodlines after I reach the juvenile stage. I have a feeling about this." His mind descended into silence as he continued to stare at the ceiling softly, thinking about all the things he had done in the day, as well as what he had learned about Fiora and Rina. Soon, Lumi's soft voice echoed inside his head. "Master, what do you plan to do for the rest of the day?" Orion shifted slightly, finally sitting upright and running a hand thoughtfully through his hair. "Since intense physical training or mana cultivation is off the table for a couple of days, I might as well use this time productively." "Oh? What productive task does Master have in mind?" A gentle smile crept onto Orion's lips as he reached toward his spatial ring, retrieving a carefully organized stack of books he had obtained from the library before. The titles glimmered faintly under the soft glow of the crystal lamps, books on elemental theories, advanced runic language concepts, and advanced knowledge on mana circuits, etc. He spread the books carefully on his bed, selecting one titled Advanced Theories of Wind Element as his first choice. "If I can't physically cultivate or refine my mana right now, then I'll deepen my knowledge foundation. After all, understanding my elements better will help greatly once I resume active training. Master is really hardworking. Even injured, you won't waste any time." Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head in mild amusement. "Injured is a strong word, Lumi. I'm just giving my body a chance to consolidate the rapid breakthroughs. But yes, there's no point in wasting valuable time when there's so much to learn and so little time." Adjusting himself comfortably against the headboard, Orion opened the book and quickly became immersed in the intricate details of the elemental. The meticulous diagrams and intricate theories instantly captured his full attention, making him completely forget about time. His eyes shone with genuine curiosity and quiet delight as the deep insights presented within the pages sparked new ideas and inspirations in his mind. Page after page, his understanding expanded, allowing his thoughts to wander freely and explore possibilities he'd never considered before. Occasionally, Lumi would make small, playful comments or highlight fascinating points within the texts, creating a warm, enjoyable atmosphere as Orion steadily absorbed knowledge that would undoubtedly shape his future path. At the end, he closed the book and looked outside to see that night was about to arrive. I should head out to meet with Seraph now. Chapter 194, Fleeting Time, but it's almost time for dinner, Master. You've been reading for hours already. Search the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion paused, looking out of the window. The sun had already set completely, blanketing the entire estate in a veil of darkness. Shaking his head, he closed the book and stood up to stretch. You're right. I should head out now. Sighing lightly, he turned around and headed to open the door. As Orion stepped out into the warmly lit hallway, the soft glow from mana lamps gently illuminated Fiora and Rina, who were standing nearby, engrossed in cheerful conversation. Their faces were bright and animated, voices gentle yet filled with quiet laughter. The peaceful atmosphere was a soothing contrast to the heavy tales Orion had just learned about their pasts. Hearing the subtle creak of his door, both girls immediately turned their attention toward Orion, their expressions instantly brightening with genuine delight. Master! Rina exclaimed joyfully, her bubbly personality clearly evident in her wide, sparkling eyes and cheerful smile. She stepped forward eagerly, clasping her hands together excitedly. Are you feeling better now? You seemed so tired earlier today. Fiora stood slightly behind Rina, looking at Orion with bright eyes as a shy smile formed on her face. She lowered her head gently, voice delicate and soft, welcome back, Master. Orion's heart warmed considerably upon seeing their bright smiles, feeling even more appreciative of the genuine kindness and innocence they always showed. With gentle affection, he reached forward, softly patting both girls' heads, causing Rina to giggle happily and Fiora's cheeks to flush further in shy delight. Thank you both for your concern, Orion replied warmly, his voice filled with appreciation. I'm feeling much better now. You two have been diligently guarding my room again, haven't you? Rina energetically nodded, her eyes twinkling playfully. Of course, Master. It's our duty to make sure you're always safe. Fiora nodded timidly as well, her voice softly sincere, we're always happy to be of help. Orion smiled gently, his tone warmly encouraging, then you two should take some rest now and do whatever you wish. I'm heading down for dinner now. Both girls nodded cheerfully, their bright smiles clearly showing their happiness and relief at seeing Orion up and well. All right, Master. Rina responded energetically. We'll head out now. Please enjoy your dinner. With another respectful nod, Fiora softly echoed, Please rest well, Master. Orion watched them fondly as the two girls departed down the corridor, chatting softly and happily amongst themselves. He began walking toward the dining hall, quietly contemplating Fiora and Rina's future training paths. Lumi, we need to find proper ways to guide their training effectively, Orion silently mused, deep in thought. With their aptitude, they should be able to follow closely after the top geniuses of the academy. Master, Fiora and Rina are also already at the 3rd level of mana cultivation, you know? Perhaps you should first focus on yourself, after all, you wouldn't want to get overtaken by your own maids, right? Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion's lips twitched. He shook his head in mild amusement, alright, Lil Lumi, I'll keep that in mind. I don't plan to fall behind those whom I've already surpassed anyway. Following his brief encounter with Rina and Fiora, Orion headed down to the dining hall with a warm smile, where Eldrick and Celine awaited him for their usual warm, family dinner. The meal proceeded pleasantly, filled with comforting conversation and gentle laughter. Orion told them about his plans for the next couple of days, as he wouldn't be able to train or go to the academy during this time. After dinner, Orion headed to Seraph's room due to the event that had happened before. He was trying to make it a habit to ensure she wasn't feeling isolated or forgotten. Like every time, he sat comfortably across from her, sharing stories of his day, from trivial things about the marketplace to more significant discussions about his cultivation and the opening of Limitless Heaven. Seraph, as usual, listened quietly yet attentively, her emerald eyes gentle and appreciative, occasionally nodding softly in response to his words. Orion felt satisfied with these interactions, sensing that each day she opened up a little more, gradually overcoming her trauma. Following his time with Seraph, Orion would return to his room and spend the rest of his evenings immersed in the numerous books he had collected from the Academy library. His initial choice was often focused on elemental theories and advanced mana circuit techniques, systematically deepening his understanding of the underlying principles of magic and cultivation. He also delved deeply into the verdant root grimoire he had obtained from the Gacha draw, its jade-bound cover filled with intricate knowledge on the wood element. These studies not only expanded his theoretical knowledge significantly but also helped him formulate plans to improve his practical cultivation methods once he resumed active training. And in his spare time, he practiced making Tier 2 spells on parchment to learn them for the time when he would engrave them. Without much issue, he mastered a couple of them soon before trying the Tier 3 spells. This routine became Orion's daily life for the next 3 days. Each day, he woke up refreshed from restful sleep and maintained light stretching and meditation sessions to consolidate his recent breakthroughs gently. He would join Eldrick and Celine for breakfast, followed by brief interactions with Rina and Fiora, whose cheerful demeanors brightened his mornings significantly. While the two girls diligently trained under Helena's supervision, Orion patiently spent his day reading books and comprehending more complex aspects of mana manipulation and elemental interactions. He also decided to learn about the mana circuits and runic inscriptions needed for the reconstruction of the fire affinity spell for the 4th tier. Every evening was consistent, a comforting dinner with Eldrick and Celine, gentle conversation and attentive care with Seraph, and finally, peaceful study sessions that often stretched into the late hours of the night. Orion greatly appreciated this short respite from intensive training, using it wisely to strengthen his foundational knowledge and broaden his horizons. On the evening of the 3rd day, after another peaceful chat with Seraph, Orion returned to his room and sat cross-legged on his bed, finally feeling the desire to test his recovery. With a calm expression, he softly called out to Lumi, "Lumi, can you check the state of my body and mana channels now? I think 3 days of rest should be enough." "Of course, Master. Let me have a look." After a brief, thoughtful silence, Lumi's cheerful voice echoed reassuringly in his mind. "Good news, Master. Your mana channels and body have fully stabilized. You're good to resume your normal training or even head back to the academy if you want. Greater than over equal to nabla less than over equal to, /. A satisfied smile appeared on Orion's lips. The brief break had accomplished exactly what he had hoped. Not only had his foundations strengthened through diligent study, but now he could safely push himself once again. With renewed energy and enthusiasm, Orion nodded, excitedly saying, "Nice, it's time for me to head back to the academy and see how all of them are training." "Hee, there is still time for that, Master. It's already past evening." Orion chuckled lightly and stood up from his bed, stretching his arms comfortably as energy surged through his body. The brief rest period had allowed his mana channels and physique to consolidate fully, making him eager to dive right back into his magical training and cultivation. Chapter 195, Learning Spells. "Since I'm finally free to move around again," Orion announced with evident anticipation in his voice, "it's about time I engrave the new fire spells I've mastered over the past few days." "Oh? Which of the spells did you decide to engrave, Master? You learned quite a few among them," Lumi asked, curiosity evident in her cheerful voice. Orion's lips curled into a slight smirk as he heard Lumi's eager inquiry, prompting him to tease her slightly. I thought you'd already know, considering how closely you've always watched me." "Heh. Master is being mysterious again. But seriously, I'm genuinely curious. You've studied several spells over these past few days, so which ones have you finally settled on?" After a playful pause, Orion shook his head lightly with an amused sigh, deciding to finally indulge Lumi's curiosity. Fine. After careful consideration, I've decided on 2 Tier 2 spells and 1 Tier 3 spell." He sat back on his bed, gently closing his eyes for a moment to mentally visualize each spell clearly. For the 2 tier 2 spells, I've chosen Blast Fire Orb and Inferno Slash. Lumi's excitement was clear as she immediately began commenting enthusiastically. Oh. Both of those sound quite powerful, Master. Especially Blast Fire Orb, that explosive effect would be great for handling multiple enemies at once. But Inferno Slash suits your fighting style perfectly too, since you prefer combining close combat with magic. Orion chuckled lightly, nodding in agreement. Exactly. Blast Fire Orb for a group of idiots wanting to die, while Inferno Slash and my swordsmanship will be a nice combo. The material of Realm Guardian should be able to easily handle the searing heat. He paused briefly, eyes shining brightly as he continued confidently. As for the tier 3 spell, I've chosen Drake Fire Breath. Ah. That's a wonderful choice, Master. It fits perfectly with your true fire dragon lineage. You'll definitely be able to unleash its full potential. Orion nodded with clear satisfaction. That was precisely my reasoning, Lumi. Drake Fire Breath mimics the breath attack of a young drake, creating a wide cone of intense flame. Given my true fire dragon lineage, this spell aligns perfectly with my inherent affinity, allowing me to draw out its maximum effectiveness. Hee, with these 3 new spells engraved, you'll become even more formidable, Master. The other students at the academy are really in for a shock when they see you back in action. For all, /. Heh, he smirked and said with confidence, just give me a couple of days, they will then get the shock of their lifetime. Oh? What do you plan on doing, Master? You will know later. For now, it's about time I start engraving these spells. He said with confidence and got off the bed to sit down at the center of the room, cross-legged to focus. The next morning dawned fresh and bright as Orion settled comfortably inside the luxurious obsidian carriage, heading toward Thunder Peak Royal Academy. Soft rays of golden sunlight streamed gently through the windows, making the interior glow with warm light. Edgar sat calmly opposite him, quietly looking outside the window as if lost in thought, while Lucan drove the carriage smoothly along the rather calm streets of the second ring. Orion gazed thoughtfully out the window, his thoughts briefly drifting to Limitless Heaven and Magi Alzareth's unique yet capable persona. After a moment, he turned his head, his gaze landing curiously on Edgar. Uncle Edgar, speaking of the shop, how is Magi handling the business so far? Orion asked calmly, mild curiosity evident in his voice. I haven't heard any updates these past few days. Edgar turned his head back, lips twitching slightly as exasperation appeared in his eyes. Ah, young master, you mean the drunkard you picked up from the brothel steps? I must say, I'm impressed he hasn't run away with your money yet, even though I had expected him not to do it. Orion raised an eyebrow slightly, giving Edgar a faint, amused glance. Please, Uncle Edgar, enough with your teasing. I'm genuinely curious about how he's doing. Chuckling softly, Edgar shook his head lightly before nodding with genuine approval. Well, jokes aside, Magi is doing far better than anyone expected. In just a few days, he's managed to attract significant attention. The stock you provided has been selling rapidly, faster than anticipated, in fact. At this rate, the store might run out of goods very soon. Orion's eyes sparkled with delight at Edgar's report. Oh? It seems his talent for business wasn't exaggerated after all. That's great news. Edgar nodded, his expression showing mild admiration as he continued, indeed. That man might act like a careless drunkard, but when it comes to negotiations and making profitable deals, he's proven himself exceptionally shrewd. He's quickly building a solid reputation for Limitless Heaven, exactly as you'd hoped. Orion relaxed into his seat, feeling a surge of satisfaction at his decision to trust Magi. I knew there was potential in him. Even if he looks rather untrustworthy. I'll head there today to get some mana crystals as well. Let's see how much I can get without affecting the store's business. We can't let the momentum slow down, after all. Edgar smiled warmly, clearly pleased with Orion's thoughtful approach. Wise choice, young master. We shouldn't take out much money until it is fully stabilized. As the carriage continued its smooth journey toward the academy, Orion's expression turned amused. But really, Uncle Edgar, joking with me about picking up Magi from the brothel's entrance? I didn't expect such jokes from you. Edgar laughed lightly, his usually calm demeanor turning soft. Even dignified old men like me need some amusement, young master. And truthfully, I haven't seen such an amusing event in years. Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head in mild amusement as he continued gazing thoughtfully out the window. Sir, the novelfire.net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lucan's cheerful voice suddenly called from outside, playfully joining the conversation. Young master, with that guy managing your store, should we prepare a separate budget just for his wine and brothel expenses? Orion's lips twitched slightly, and Edgar laughed warmly, clearly enjoying Lucan's contribution to the playful banter. Perhaps we might have to, brother Lucan. Though I suspect Magi will soon afford his own endless supply of wine and beauties. Lucan laughed heartily from his seat, steering the carriage expertly toward the impressive gates of Thunder Peak Royal Academy, which loomed gracefully into view. Orion's expression gradually turned more focused as the carriage approached, anticipation building gently in his chest at the thought of seeing how his friends and club members had progressed in his absence. The towering academy buildings soon appeared clearly through the carriage windows, their elegant spires and majestic walls bathed in soft morning sunlight. As usual, Lucan stopped the carriage right outside the academy's gates as Edgar opened the door calmly before stepping out first and respectfully holding it open for Orion. Orion calmly stepped down before heading inside the academy. Showing his student badge, he entered through the gates which, as usual, scanned his body before he stepped foot on the expansive grounds of the academy. Students of various years and backgrounds moved through the grounds, chatting with friends or preparing for their morning lectures. His appearance didn't go unnoticed, however. Soon enough, murmurs and curious whispers quietly broke out around him. Hey, look, isn't that Orion Hellstorm? Yeah, it's really him. He's been missing from the academy for days. I thought something bad had happened. I heard someone saw him being taken out of the academy by an instructor. Do you think he suffered mana backlash or something? Chapter 196, Shocking Arya and Emilia. Orion ignored the whispered speculations and gossip around him, calmly maintaining his stride. His expression remained serene, eyes focused ahead, entirely unfazed by the inquisitive gazes following his every move. After all, he was accustomed to attracting attention wherever he went by now, and petty rumors hardly bothered him. Without stopping, he continued straight toward the serene gardens near the western side of the academy grounds, knowing exactly where he would find Arya and Emilia. The gentle fragrance of blooming flowers drifted soothingly through the crisp morning air, creating a calming and refreshing atmosphere as he approached. Ahead, amidst the lush greenery, Arya and Emilia were quietly chatting near a beautifully sculpted marble bench beneath a grand cherry blossom tree. Arya's usually bright and energetic demeanor seemed noticeably calmer, almost subdued compared to her usual exuberance. Emilia stood beside her with the same composed and graceful presence Orion had grown accustomed to. Sensing his presence, both girls turned their heads simultaneously. Arya's violet eyes instantly widened, her calm demeanor vanishing immediately as excitement flooded her expression. "Brother Orion!" Arya exclaimed joyfully, jumping swiftly to her feet, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You're finally back. We were both really worried." Orion chuckled softly, approaching calmly as he warmly greeted them. "Good morning, Arya, Emilia. Sorry for worrying you both." Arya stepped forward eagerly, clearly bursting with curiosity and concern. "Are you feeling okay now? What exactly happened that day?" "Instructor Viren carried you out unconscious due to some complication at the Origin mana pool, and after that, we couldn't get any information from anyone." Just as Orion opened his mouth to respond, Emilia's composed expression shifted into one of shock and disbelief. Her steel blue eyes widened dramatically as she sharply inhaled, sensing the subtle but strong changes in Orion's mana. "Wait a moment." Emilia's usually calm voice trembled faintly, clearly not believing what she had sensed. "Your mana. Orion, just what level have you reached now?" "This is..." Orion laughed gently, raising both hands in a calming gesture to ease their excitement and curiosity. Calm down, both of you. Give me a chance to explain properly, alright? Arya and Emilia exchanged eager, impatient glances before quickly settling down onto the marble bench, their eyes fixated intensely upon Orion, clearly eager for answers. Orion smiled gently, sitting across from them, and began to explain patiently. As you both know, I went to the origin mana pool that day. My intention was only to stabilize my foundation before breaking through to the second level, but once I began absorbing mana, my body and mana channels resonated strongly with the mana there. Without realizing it, I broke through multiple levels simultaneously. He paused momentarily, letting them absorb the incredible revelation before continuing calmly. By the end of it all, I had already reached the peak of the third level, not only in mana cultivation but also in my physique path. Arya's jaw dropped, and Emilia sat frozen in shock, staring at Orion in disbelief. Both girls remained speechless for several seconds, clearly overwhelmed by the unprecedented feat Orion had just casually described. Arya finally broke the silence, voice faintly trembling with worry and concern. Brother Orion, isn't such rapid climb in ranks dangerous? Aren't there severe side effects from advancing multiple levels so quickly? Orion gently shook his head reassuringly, smiling warmly to ease her worries. You don't have to worry about that. After the incident, my grandparents carefully examined my body and mana channels multiple times. Everything is stable, and there are no hidden injuries or side effects. I've spent the past few days resting and consolidating my breakthroughs. Emilia exhaled softly, finally regaining her composure as she spoke slowly. This truly goes beyond anything we've ever heard of, Orion. Reaching the third level simultaneously in both cultivation paths within mere days. You're redefining what it means to be a prodigy. Truly, girl, even I have never heard of such a talent even in the distant lands, much less this kingdom. The spear spirit said with slight disbelief in her tone. Arya eagerly nodded her head in agreement, eyes sparkling with newfound admiration and excitement. Brother Orion, you're really incredible. The academy will be thrown into absolute chaos once they find out. Orion chuckled lightly, gently shaking his head in amusement at their enthusiastic reactions. I don't think others would be able to tell unless they focus on me like you guys. And how many will dare to check me so closely? Arya giggled playfully, eyes still shining brightly. You're definitely going to cause quite a commotion either way. Anyway, what's your plan now? Do you intend to challenge the Tower of Myths again or start a new training routine? Orion thoughtfully considered her question briefly, then calmly replied, Actually, there's a few questions regarding the wood element that I want to get sorted. I plan to take Instructor Lyssandra's class again today to clarify those questions. Then I should be able to set for creating my second affinity rune. Search *the novel_fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Emilia nodded approvingly, her expression becoming calm again. That's a good choice. Instructor Lysandra should be able to clear most of your doubts, especially when it comes to advanced elemental theory or runes regarding it. Arya sighed exaggeratedly but smiled understandingly, teasing gently, You really never take breaks, do you, Brother Orion? You've just recovered and immediately throw yourself back into studying and training. Orion laughed softly, standing calmly and stretching his limbs comfortably. Well, I already rested like 3 to 4 days. Now there's no more time to waste if I want to stay ahead of others. I can't let any opportunities pass by. Arya nodded cheerfully, standing up alongside Emilia. In that case, Brother Orion, we'll part ways here for now. Emilia and I have our Thunder Element class shortly. Let's meet up later. Emilia nodded her head without saying much. Orion waved warmly as the two girls departed, leaving him standing alone in the peaceful garden once more. I should head to class now as well. Saying so, he stood up and walked toward the class. The bustling streets of the Fourth Ring were filled with merchants energetically calling out their wares, shoppers bustling from stall to stall, and elegant carriages gliding along smoothly. Amidst this lively morning activity, an adult man leisurely strode through the crowded street, easily standing out with his long dirty blonde hair, striking blue eyes, and carefree demeanor. A small, pure white bunny sat perched comfortably upon his shoulder, calmly observing the surroundings with serene red eyes. Magi Alzareth, formerly known as a prodigious merchant prodigy and recently infamous as the Fourth Ring's most notorious wastrel, confidently moved through the crowd. Behind him, several imposing guards clad in the prestigious armor of the Hellstorm estate marched solemnly, their disciplined steps in sharp contrast to Magi's casual swagger. He abruptly stopped before a large, moderately prosperous establishment, a luxurious-looking tavern frequented by wealthy merchants and minor nobles. Without hesitation, Magi lifted one foot and kicked open the elegantly carved wooden door, causing it to slam loudly against the wall. All conversation inside ceased instantly. Patrons turned in surprise and confusion, their eyes widening further in recognition and curiosity as they saw Magi's infamous figure framed dramatically within the doorway. Magi smiled lazily, eyes flashing mischievously as he dramatically raised his voice, drawing attention from every corner of the tavern. "Debt collector Magi is here. Pay up, bitches." His voice echoed boldly throughout the tavern, eliciting shocked gasps and nervous murmurs among the patrons. His carefree attitude was utterly unapologetic, clearly unconcerned about any potential repercussions. The establishment's owner, a plump middle-aged man, turned pale, visibly trembling as he recognized Magi and the authoritative Hellstorm guards standing quietly behind him. He hurriedly approached, stammering anxiously, "Master Magi, surely we can discuss this matter privately, can't we?" "Please, there's no need for such." Magi cheerfully interrupted, placing a firm, playful hand on the man's shoulder. "Relax, old friend. As long as you settle your debts today, there won't be any problems. But if you delay even one more day..." Magi's playful smile deepened, becoming subtly threatening, "then these fine gentlemen from the Hellstorm estate might not be as forgiving as me." The terrified owner nodded vigorously, immediately turning to fetch the owed mana crystals as Magi chuckled softly, his sharp eyes surveying the rest of the market through the window for his next target. Chapter 197. Dawn. The scene shifted dramatically, moving far from the bustling marketplace of the Fourth Ring to the distant, perilous landscape where molten rock poured relentlessly, and volcanic vents spewed columns of toxic fumes. Beneath a blood-red sky, a solitary figure ascended the harsh slopes of an enormous volcanic mountain. The landscape was barren, twisted rock formations standing like dark sentinels amid bubbling pools of lava. Sulphurous vapors rose upward in thick plumes, choking the air and dimming visibility. Dawn, a middle-aged man bearing a solemn, resolute gaze, climbed steadily toward the volcano's peak, each step leaving a deep imprint on the volcanic ash beneath his sturdy leather boots. He wore a long, weathered cloak that fluttered behind him in the scalding wind. In his right hand, he firmly grasped an ancient-looking katana, its polished blade shimmering faintly with mysterious runes, emanating a subtle, yet overwhelming aura. His expression was stern and unyielding, and his dark eyes burned with unshakable determination. Despite the oppressive heat and hazardous terrain, his breathing remained calm and steady, showing his deep strength. Upon reaching the volcano's summit, Dawn stood unwavering at the edge of the enormous crater, overlooking the blazing inferno below. Sweat glistened on his forehead, but he seemed oblivious to the blistering heat as he looked downward into the molten lake of fire. Taking a deep breath, his voice thundered clearly and firmly into the fiery abyss, echoing like a call from ancient legends, "Draconius! Come meet your old friend." His powerful shout reverberated across the volcano, the air trembling faintly. Moments passed in tense silence, the volcanic roar the only reply, until suddenly, the molten lake began to churn violently. Waves of liquid fire surged upward, cascading against the rocky walls as a massive, draconic form rose slowly from beneath the lava. The dragon's emergence was a sight of awe and terror. Its enormous body, over 1,100 meters tall, was armored in scales the color of burning embers, shimmering with fiery hues of crimson and gold. Streams of molten rock poured effortlessly from its massive shoulders and wings, its presence alone causing the volcano to quake. A pair of ancient golden eyes opened slowly, narrowing to thin slits as they locked onto the small figure standing at the volcano's rim. When it spoke, its voice resonated like distant thunder, deep and profoundly powerful, shaking the air and ground alike. Dawn. The dragon's rumbling voice rolled out slowly, each word heavy with disdain. What is a heretic like you doing here? Unfazed by the intimidating presence and power of the ancient creature, Dawn returned its gaze steadily, standing firm against the waves of fiery wind blowing violently around him. Draconius, he replied calmly but assertively, did you sense a disturbance around here several months ago? Something abnormal? I felt something strange. But I was too far away to clearly tell what had transpired or where it came from. Draconius shifted slightly in the molten pool, lava streaming down his enormous, scaled neck. He exhaled slowly, releasing a heated storm of wind and embers that whipped violently around Dawn, though the man stood firm against the scorching tempest. Whatever the outside world does matters not to me. I am not a guardian here to watch over your petty mortal affairs. Dawn remained quiet for a moment, silently watching the dragon's immense form. Eventually, he spoke again, his voice calm but carrying undeniable weight. Do you remember the dragon who rampaged through this land many years ago? Draconius's eyes flickered sharply at the question. The enormous dragon breathed out slowly, releasing a river of flame and lava that cascaded down his immense jaw, igniting the surrounding air. She was not at fault. Draconius's voice resonated deeply, tinged with an ancient sadness and fury. Someone stole her egg. The destruction of those few kingdoms was only what your kind deserved for such treachery. You humans should be grateful that dragons do not usually meddle in your mortal games, otherwise, no kingdom would stand beneath the heavens. Dawn shook his head slowly, his expression still calm and resolute, yet filled with an undeniable melancholy. Billions died due to the actions of a single person. Justice doesn't justify genocide. But that's not why I'm here, Draconius. Tell me, what became of that dragon? Draconius stared at Dawn intensely for a long moment, his golden eyes smoldering with both irritation and intrigue. Eventually, the colossal dragon spoke again, voice rumbling powerfully. The dragon's blade came and took her back to agrarian continent. After that, I know not what happened. Dawn exhaled softly, his brows knitted slightly. He raised his head, locking eyes with the dragon once again. How can you claim ignorance? You're powerful enough to rival the Dragon King himself. Or is it that you're hiding here, because of him? Draconius's entire presence shifted abruptly, becoming infinitely more oppressive. His previously calm and disdainful gaze erupted into murderous intent, eyes blazing like two molten suns. The sheer force of his anger caused the volcano to tremble, waves of lava splashing violently. You dare seek death by provoking me, Dawn? Draconius's voice was low and deadly now, barely contained fury seething within each word. Dawn remained unflinching, raising his katana with calmness. His eyes narrowed slightly, yet his voice remained clear and unwavering. I've slain more demons than I can count. Perhaps it's time I start hunting dragons. For several tense moments, the only sound was the deafening roar of the molten lake and the heavy, wrathful breathing of Draconius. Both ancient beings, one human, one dragon, stood poised on the brink of conflict, neither giving ground nor showing weakness. The dragon slowly lowered its enormous head, bringing its blazing golden eyes level with Dawn's own, immense breath causing molten sparks to swirl violently. Be cautious with your threats, heretic, Draconius growled menacingly, looking at Dawn with both a hint of caution and disdain. You may have slain many demons, but dragons are not creatures you can easily challenge. You tread upon thin ice. Consider your next words carefully. Dawn's grip tightened slightly on his katana, his gaze never wavering from Draconius's immense eyes. The air between them practically crackled with tension and power, neither willing to back down, yet both fully aware of the catastrophic consequences a clash between them would entail. I came seeking answers, Dawn finally said slowly, deliberately choosing each word. But if violence is all you understand, then I will speak your language. Draconius stared deeply at the fearless human warrior before him, slowly considering the situation. Eventually, a subtle change softened his gaze fractionally. Though prideful and powerful, the dragon was wise enough to understand that a battle between two such formidable existences would devastate the surrounding land, and perhaps bring unwanted attention. After a tense silence, Draconius slowly lifted his head away, eyes narrowing slightly with irritation. "Begone, Dawn," the ancient dragon rumbled finally, voice echoing across the volcano's crater with a deep, commanding finality. "I care not for your quests or your conflicts. But if you ever come here again with such insolence, I will burn you and everything you protect to ashes." With that, Draconius slowly began to sink back into the lava, molten rock spilling from his scales as he submerged once more into the fiery depths. Dawn remained standing resolutely at the volcano's edge, katana still held firmly, his gaze solemn and unwavering as the dragon disappeared completely. "Draconius, the fallen king, huh?" Shaking his head, he turned around and began to walk down the volcano. Sar the novelfire.net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Chapter 198, Talking with club members. The classroom door gently closed behind Orion as he stepped out into the bright hallway of Thunder Peak Royal Academy. A satisfied smile formed on his face as he mentally reviewed the insights instructor Lysandra had provided during the lecture. Rays of warm sunlight came through the large windows lining the hallway, casting long shadows and illuminating Orion's calm, thoughtful expression. As he began walking leisurely along the polished marble corridor, Lumi's cheerful voice resonated playfully within his mind. "Master, you seem very pleased after today's class. Did Instructor Lysandra finally clarify those questions you had about the wood element?" Carrot. Orion nodded slightly, maintaining a casual pace as he responded inwardly, "Yes, Instructor Lysandra's explanations were excellent today. Many of my doubts regarding wood element mana circulation and its interaction with the mana channels have been cleared. With the additional knowledge from the Verdant Root Grimoire, I feel confident enough to attempt forming my wood affinity rune tonight." "Great! Master will be even more powerful soon. At this rate, you'll be unbeatable." Orion chuckled softly at Lumi's enthusiasm, shaking his head lightly as he continued along the hallway toward the familiar, tranquil garden where his club usually gathered during their free time. Upon entering the serene garden, Orion immediately spotted Arya, Emilia, Fiora, Nyss, and Elias standing together beneath the gentle shade of a large cherry blossom tree. Their expressions brightened significantly upon noticing Orion's approach, smiles spreading warmly across their faces. Elias and Fiora eagerly stepped forward first, their eyes shining brightly with genuine delight at seeing Orion again after several days. Fiora, ever graceful and cheerful, smiled warmly as she spoke first. "Orion, welcome back. We were all quite worried after hearing that you were taken out unconscious from the academy. How are you feeling now?" Elias nodded with a friendly smile, adding quickly, "Yeah, what exactly happened back then at the Origin Mana Pool?" "I tried asking Instructor Viren but he didn't tell me much." Orion chuckled softly, his expression calm as he replied smoothly, "The Origin Mana Pool turned out to be even more beneficial than I anticipated. The mana within resonated very strongly with my mana channels, and I ended up reaching Tier 3, in both the mana and physique paths." Fiora's eyes widened dramatically, her mouth opening slightly in astonishment, while Elias froze briefly, completely taken aback by the incredible revelation. Elias regained his composure quickly, shaking his head slightly in disbelief. "Seriously, Orion? Tier 3 in both paths simultaneously? That's unheard of. I thought I might close the gap soon, but this, huh? But you're really alright, right? Rapid breakthroughs can cause internal damage, you know." Orion shook his head calmly, his voice gentle yet firm. "There's no need to worry. My grandparents checked thoroughly, and everything is perfectly fine. What's done is done, the past is best left behind now." As he finished speaking, Orion's gaze briefly met Nyss's. She had been quiet during the exchange, standing slightly apart, her usually calm and confident eyes reflecting a complex mixture of relief and subtle concern. novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion could sense that Nyss had more to say, but he chose not to press her, deciding to talk with her some other day as the others still weren't used to standing together with her. He turned his attention to Arya and softly asked, "By the way, Arya, I noticed Sylvia and Kale aren't here today. Do you know where they went? Arya, who had been silently listening with a relaxed expression, quickly nodded, her voice clear and cheerful. Oh, right. Sylvia actually managed to break through to the 3rd level of the physique path yesterday, so she's currently at home consolidating her new breakthrough. Kale went back home early because of some family matter that came up. Orion smiled genuinely, nodding appreciatively. Sylvia's advancement is great news. It seems we're all steadily making progress. The atmosphere in the garden gradually relaxed again, and the group comfortably resumed chatting about their respective experiences and training progress. Emilia quietly stood next to Arya, occasionally offering concise yet insightful observations, clearly enjoying the harmonious company. After a while, Elias stepped closer again, his expression filled with eager pride. Oh, Orion, I almost forgot. I've successfully finished forming my gravity affinity rune. Honestly, I wanted to challenge you to a friendly spar to test it out, but now you've already leaped ahead to tier 3, completely leaving me behind. Orion chuckled lightly, amused by Elias's candid disappointment. Don't worry, Elias. Given your talent, I'm sure it won't take long for you to catch up to me again. By then, we'll definitely have our spar. It's bad to give such false hope to others, Master. Minor details. Elias's eyes brightened, feeling more confident after Orion's encouragement. I'll hold you to that. Fiora giggled softly, clearly amused by Elias's straightforward nature, while Nyss silently watched the exchange with a faint smile, her earlier worry momentarily forgotten. After chatting a while longer, Orion eventually glanced at the sky, noting the passage of time. With a calm, apologetic smile, he turned to the group and spoke softly. Unfortunately, I might not come to the academy for the next couple of days. There are several important matters I need to handle at home, including finalizing some training preparations and rune formation. But don't slack off in my absence, I expect to see even more impressive results from everyone when I return. Arya smiled brightly, her violet eyes sparkling cheerfully. We definitely won't let you down, Brother Orion. Good luck with your rune formation. Elias nodded earnestly, his excitement evident. Having you here is useless since we can't train with you anyway. I'll go back to training with Kale once he returns. Orion chuckled warmly, acknowledging Elias's challenge with a confident nod. Fiora chuckled and nodded, yes, we won't slack off, Instructor Orion. Now off you go. He nodded while Nyss met his gaze once more, subtly nodding to show her support and understanding. With their goodbyes exchanged, Orion turned calmly, exiting the peaceful garden and walking along the smooth stone pathway toward the academy's exit. As he walked, Lumi's cheerful voice echoed softly within his mind once again, filled with playful curiosity. Master, everyone really treats you well, huh? Orion rubbed his chin while saying, well, probably only Elias and Arya are the genuine ones among the bunch. The others are all from noble houses and can't be trusted at face value. Their elders might have instructed them to form close ties with me. She curiously asked. Then why did you get them in the club? Wouldn't just taking the commoner students have been better? He softly shook his head, relationships take time to build. I'm sure after a few explorations their thoughts will turn genuine. Otherwise, I'd just need to create a few life and death situations for them and then resolve them to cement their trust in me. How evil. I like it. So now, what's next? Forming the wood affinity rune right away, or something else first? Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion's expression softened as he sighed. I wanted to talk with Nyss, but from the looks of it, I won't be able to talk with her with the others present. Then I'll head home and train with my sword first before I practice forming the wood affinity rune. Hee, then Lumi will cheer for Master with all her might. Chapter 199, collecting some money. He let out a chuckle hearing her enthusiastic words. Yes, I should focus on forming a few more affinity runes now. In the next few days, I'll just stay at the mansion and do it. Lumi's curious voice resonated cheerfully inside his head. Master, are you really going to form multiple affinity runes back to back? Won't that put a strain on you? Orion smiled calmly, responding reassuringly, "No worries, Lumi. It might have put a little bit of strain on my sea of consciousness, but now that I'm at the 3rd level and my SOC has become massive compared to back then, no problem will arise. Besides, practicing with each rune will only deepen my overall understanding." "Hehe, Master always thinks things through thoroughly. You're really impressive." Orion shook his head slightly, chuckling softly at Lumi's overly enthusiastic praise as he approached the exit gates of the academy. From a distance, he easily spotted Edgar's figure waiting patiently, alongside Lucan, who lounged lazily against the obsidian carriage, his carefree posture contrasting sharply with Edgar's refined demeanor. Xianxia the novel, F.ir.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Upon seeing Orion approaching, Edgar immediately straightened, respectfully bowing his head with a gentle smile. "Young master, welcome back. Did your class go well today?" Orion smiled warmly, nodding gently in return. "It was excellent, Uncle Edgar. Many of my questions were clarified thoroughly. However, before we head home, I'd like to visit the market first to check personally on Magi's progress." Edgar nodded calmly, clearly expecting such a request. Lucan, overhearing Orion's words, stretched exaggeratedly, yawning lazily as he slowly climbed back onto the driver's seat. "Ah, another trip to the market? Young Master Orion really loves making me work, huh?" Orion raised an eyebrow slightly, looking at Lucan with a playful yet pointed glance. "Grandpa Lucan, you're only sitting there holding the reins, hardly exhausting yourself." Lucan's lips twitched at how he addressed him, inwardly groaning a little. He guided the carriage smoothly forward, his playful complaints fading into comfortable silence. The journey to the bustling 4th ring passed swiftly, and soon the carriage stopped gracefully at the busy marketplace entrance. Lucan immediately leaned back into his seat, already preparing to enjoy another moment of leisurely rest. Orion and Edgar stepped calmly out onto the bustling street, smoothly weaving their way through the colorful crowd toward the location of Limitless Heaven. Upon arriving at the store's familiar location, Orion paused momentarily in surprise. The plain building from just days before had completely transformed. Its once plain exterior was now elegantly renovated, polished dark wood adorned with intricate carvings, gleaming brightly beneath the warm sunlight. A few well-armed Hellstorm guards stood attentively at the entrance, bowing respectfully as Orion and Edgar approached. "Welcome back, young Master Orion," one guard greeted politely, recognizing him immediately. Orion nodded in return, quietly impressed by the noticeable improvements. Inside, the shop was bustling with activity. Rows of ornate counters neatly lined both sides, displaying carefully arranged treasures ranging from artifacts and potions to enchanted weapons and armor. Smartly dressed assistants stood attentively behind each counter, engaging enthusiastically with curious customers. Just as Orion stepped further inside, a young female attendant dressed in neat, professional attire approached him, her demeanor polite and welcoming. "Good afternoon, young master. How may I assist you today? Are you looking for something specific?" Orion raised an eyebrow slightly, amused by her eager professionalism, and asked calmly, "Could you tell me where Magi is at the moment?" The attendant quickly looked at Orion's confident demeanor, recalling how the guards had respectfully greeted him earlier, and respectfully replied, "Master Magi is currently upstairs, reviewing today's accounts. Please head up, he should be available." Orion nodded gently, thanking her briefly before smoothly ascending the polished staircase toward the upper floors. Edgar quietly followed, observing everything with careful attention. Upon reaching the 3rd floor, Orion immediately spotted Magi sitting behind an ornate desk covered with parchment, bottles of wine scattered haphazardly nearby. Magi's familiar bunny, Rune, sat calmly on his shoulder, quietly nibbling on a leafy vegetable while seemingly unbothered by the mild chaos surrounding her master. Magi, noticing Orion's arrival, quickly rose with surprising enthusiasm, spreading his arms wide with an exaggerated smile. "Boss Orion! Welcome, welcome! You've finally come to see the fruits of my hard labor?" Orion chuckled softly, amused by Magi's cheerful antics as he approached the desk. "It seems you've managed everything well. The place looks completely different. Magi grinned proudly, though his voice remained casual and slightly playful. Naturally. With your initial stock and my brilliant business plans, Limitless Heaven quickly became a bustling center of trade. Although, truthfully, Magi scratched his messy blonde hair sheepishly, we've nearly exhausted the stock, and expenses were far higher than I initially estimated. Orion nodded calmly, expecting this possibility. So, how much profit have we managed to accumulate so far? Magi's expression turned briefly reluctant as he sighed deeply, spreading his hands dramatically. After paying for furniture, staff salaries, advertising costs, restocking essentials, and various expenses, we currently have only a few thousand high-grade mana crystals remaining. Even my debt-collecting efforts haven't sustained us for long. Orion nodded thoughtfully, impressed rather than disappointed. Not bad for just a few days of work. However, I currently need some mana crystals urgently. Could you provide all the crystals that won't hurt the business? Magi's cheerful expression fell slightly, a clear pang of pain crossing his handsome face as he reluctantly opened a storage chest, slowly retrieving a storage ring filled with around 3,000 high-grade mana crystals. Handing it over hesitantly, he looked genuinely distressed. Boss Orion, please restock quickly. My poor heart can't bear seeing our coffers so empty. Orion chuckled softly, accepting the ring with a light nod. Don't worry, Magi. Just hold on a little longer, I'll handle restocking soon enough. Just keep the business steady for now. Magi sighed dramatically, waving his hand dismissively. Fine, leave it to me. But please hurry. Otherwise, I'll need to drown my sorrows in more wine and beauties. Shaking his head in amusement, Orion bid Magi farewell, exiting Limitless Heaven with Edgar by his side. The two walked quietly back toward the carriage, Edgar finally breaking the comfortable silence. Young Master, how exactly do you plan to acquire more stock quickly? Master Eldrick and Lady Celine haven't provided any additional treasures lately, Edgar asked calmly, mild curiosity in his voice. Orion smiled mysteriously, glancing briefly at Edgar with a confident expression. Don't worry, Uncle Edgar. I have my methods. You'll soon see. Edgar nodded respectfully, wisely deciding not to press further. Soon, they reached the carriage, where Lucan was lazily resting with eyes closed. Hearing their approach, Lucan immediately straightened and sighed dramatically, preparing himself to return home once more. Back at the Hellstorm estate, Orion wasted no time, quickly heading toward the training room with Edgar to train. The afternoon sun bathed the area warmly as Orion dedicated several intense hours to honing his swordsmanship under Edgar's guidance. After several hours of rigorous training, Orion finally paused, breathing calmly despite his physical exertion. Edgar nodded approvingly, clearly pleased with Orion's remarkable progress. You've improved significantly, young master. Your swordsmanship has become sharper and more refined. Every day you seem to be improving at that, Edgar praised sincerely. Orion smiled appreciatively, wiping away sweat before heading inside the mansion. He immediately took a relaxing bath with Fiora and Rina, washing away fatigue and calming his mind thoroughly. Chapter 200, Rune Formation. Freshly dressed, Orion joined Eldrick and Celine for a pleasant, comforting dinner, sharing brief details about his day's activities. Afterward, Orion quietly excused himself, heading directly toward Seraph's room. Entering her chamber, Orion gently closed the door behind him, warmly greeting Seraph as he settled comfortably across from her. Seraph sat quietly, her emerald eyes gently focusing on Orion with subtle warmth and appreciation, patiently awaiting his usual gentle words. Smiling softly, Orion calmly began sharing his day's events, ranging from his successful class at the academy to amusing things about Magi's antics in Limitless Heaven. Seraph listened quietly, her previously tense posture gradually relaxing as she became absorbed in Orion's comforting voice and gentle presence. After speaking gently with Seraph for a while longer, Orion eventually noticed the faint signs of tiredness flickering within her emerald eyes. Smiling warmly, he slowly rose to his feet, voice soothing and kind as he spoke softly. It's late now, Seraph. You should rest early today. We'll talk more tomorrow. Seraph nodded gently, her lips curling into the faintest of smiles, a silent yet deeply meaningful acknowledgement of Orion's unwavering kindness. Orion quietly exited her room, softly closing the door behind him, leaving Seraph alone to enjoy a peaceful night of rest. Outside in the hallway, Orion exhaled softly, briefly stretching his body to relieve the day's accumulated tension. The night had cast a long stretch of darkness over the Hellstorm estate as gentle moonlight came through the large windows, casting calm and soft light over the floors and walls. He returned slowly to his room, his footsteps quietly echoing in the empty corridor. Once inside, Orion calmly shut the door, immediately feeling a sense of peace envelop him. He walked leisurely across his spacious chamber, settling comfortably onto his large, familiar bed. Leaning back, Orion closed his eyes momentarily, allowing himself a brief moment of rest and contemplation. Soon, Lumi's cheerful and playful voice echoed softly within his mind, breaking the gentle silence. "Master, your days have become really busy again. Are you feeling all right? Do you ever tire yourself out?" Winky face. Orion smiled lightly, eyes still closed as he replied inwardly, "I'm fine, Lumi. In fact, days like these keep me energized. Constant growth and steady progress, those are what truly motivate me." Lumi giggled playfully, clearly satisfied by Orion's confident reply. "Hee, that's my master. So, what's your next step? Are you finally going to study the wood runes now?" Orion opened his eyes slowly, sitting up as he said, "Indeed. Now that I've cleared up all my doubts, I need to learn the wood affinity rune thoroughly before I can start forming it inside my sea of consciousness." Without further delay, Orion reached toward his bedside table, retrieving a carefully arranged set of parchments and scrolls containing detailed notes and diagrams of the specific runes needed for his wood affinity rune that he had made during his rest days. Among them were primary runes: wood, flow, stabilize, amplify, sustain, absorb, contain, reinforce, and channel, each intricately detailed and carefully explained. Focusing intently, Orion immersed himself completely in the meticulous study of these runes. His sharp eyes moved rapidly over the texts, absorbing information swiftly and precisely before practicing with it. Lumi occasionally made soft, cheerful comments to lighten the atmosphere, gently guiding him along whenever he paused or seemed unsure. Minutes turned into hours as Orion diligently studied and internalized every detail of the runes before focusing on the affinity rune, meticulously practicing each rune detail repeatedly on spare parchment until his familiarity with them became instinctual. After an extended period of intense focus, Orion finally exhaled deeply, satisfaction clearly visible in his eyes. "All right, Lumi. I've memorized all the runes needed to form the wood affinity rune clearly and thoroughly. Let's proceed carefully." "Great job, Master. Now, all that's left is to successfully forge it inside your sea of consciousness. Are you ready?" Orion nodded calmly, feeling rather confident due to his already formed fire affinity rune. "Yes, Lumi, I'm ready." Lazily, he rose from his comfortable chair and walked slowly to the center of the room. He calmly sat cross-legged, posture perfectly upright, and closed his eyes, steadily quieting his mind to enter the tranquil state necessary for rune formation. Within moments, Orion's consciousness descended smoothly into his expansive sea of consciousness. This inner space stretched far larger than he had remembered, illuminated softly by the azure mana as well as the floating orbs of his elemental affinities. Turning his head, he could see that the fire affinity rune had taken a corner to itself, and the other spells that he had crafted were floating around it. Calmly turning his head, he went towards the horde of elemental orbs and took out the wood affinity elemental orb from the group. It was a shimmering, verdant green orb of elemental energy. He took a deep, calming breath, then raised his mental hand to initiate the delicate rune formation process. sarthenovelier.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. First, he carefully called forth the origin glyph, allowing the shape to form naturally, shaped by his own subconscious affinity and inherent understanding of the wood element. It formed effortlessly, a perfect, intricate symbol glowing vibrantly with deep green hues, pulsating gently with life and vitality. Satisfied with the foundational origin glyph, Orion meticulously proceeded to form each of the primary runes around it. With precise mental control, he elegantly etched runes in careful succession: wood, flow, stabilize, amplify, sustain, absorb, contain, reinforce, and channel. Each rune flared brightly upon completion, linking seamlessly together into a circular array around the origin glyph. Now for the mana circuits, Orion whispered softly within his mind, keeping his focus steady. With delicate precision, he began crafting intricate pathways of mana circuits to connect and stabilize each rune. His mental focus never wavered, ensuring that every circuit was perfectly balanced and positioned, allowing mana to flow harmoniously through the entire rune formation. After the mana circuits were complete, Orion concentrated deeply, beginning the complex task of writing runic inscriptions, carefully embedding subtle, yet critical commands and mechanisms into the rune structure. Each inscription defined how the wood affinity rune would interact with his mana channels and sea of consciousness, enhancing his efficiency and affinity control significantly. Finally, with the individual components complete, Orion took a slow, steady breath and began merging everything into a cohesive whole. Another layer formed naturally around the structure, flawlessly binding the origin glyph, primary runes, mana circuits, and runic inscriptions into a harmonious, stable rune. A radiant glow burst forth, illuminating his entire sea of consciousness as the completed wood affinity rune stabilized. Orion exhaled deeply, satisfaction filling his heart. He felt a powerful resonance, a deep, gentle harmony with the wood element coursing vibrantly through his mana channels. "Nice, I'm finally done with this," he said with relief. "Congratulations, Master. You are one step closer to forming all the affinity runes inside your sea of consciousness." He smiled at her cheerful words and looked around at his larger SoC for a second before slowly returning his consciousness to the outside world. Opening his eyes, he felt the life force from the trees and grass in the garden more clearly now. It really feels different after forming the affinity rune. Well, time to see what spells are there in the Verdant Root Grimoire.